Let's call to order the special meeting of the Morris Township Board of Adjustment for September 30th, 2024. The legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied, and a statement certifying same will be executed. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Santiago, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Goldberg.
Here.
Mr. Trachtenberg.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Schuster.
Here.
Mr. Benoit.
Here.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Woodford.
Here.
Mr. Oler.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Fishinger.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
And I, Sonia Santiago, here.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Matter of business tonight is the continuation on the SLOC application. Appearances.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Frank Vitolo, Sills, Cummins and Gross, on behalf of the applicant.
And the opposition counsel?
Michael Mullen, Your Honor, from Skink Price Smith and King. Bob McBriar of our firm, unfortunately, is quite ill, and so I have been drafted to replace him, to join the fray, so to speak.
So I think we left off with you were going to be cross-examining the witnesses,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
the objector.
Yes.
So which witness are we going to do first, the hydrologist or the planner?
I would like to begin with the planner.
Okay. Yes, he's here.
He's here.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Pistolano, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, Mr. Muller. Oh, you're Mr. Patello, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Pestilano.
Good evening, Mr. Patola.
This is mic on?
The microphone is on. Mr. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Solano.
Shall I sing?
No.
No, thanks.
No, thank you. Good answer.
Mr. Pestilano, you testified during the hearing, the last hearing, that in your expert opinion, the use we are proposing here is multifamily. Is that correct?
Yes,
All right. In fact, you testified to that on page 112, lines 1 through 3 of the transcript. Sir, have you ever heard of the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law?
of course I have.
All right. In fact, it's one of the sources that you relied upon in formulating your expert opinion in this case. Is that fair?
Yes,
And would you agree with me, sir, that the MLUL is a comprehensive statute that governs land use planning and zoning in New Jersey?
it is.
Okay. How does the MLUL define multifamily?
May I look it up?
No.
Okay,
Do you know?
I can't cite it from memory.
Okay. Well, I have it here for you. If you look up on the screen, this is the definition of multifamily development from the New Jersey Administrative Code, Section 521-1, which sets forth the defined terms used in the MLUL. Sir, if you'd like, I'd just like to read you this definition. It says development other than one or two family detached dwellings where the dwellings are arranged so that there are more than two units attached, regardless of the presence of lot lines. Did I read that accurately?
I followed along. I think you did.
Okay, so according to this definition, you are incorrect that we are proposing multifamily development in this case. Is that correct, sir?
I would disagree with that conclusion.
Okay, you disagree with the definition of multifamily development in the code,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so the definition you're using is from your own mind, or is it somewhere written down?
From 40 years of practice as a licensed professional planner.
Okay, so it is from your head, not from anywhere written down.
From my experience in
Okay.
practice.
All right, thanks, sir. Sir, can you please identify for me an example from this or any other jurisdiction in the state of New Jersey where the type of development proposed here was determined to be a multifamily use?
I base my opinion on 3 or more dwelling units on a single parcel.
Okay, I'm going to ask you again. Can you please identify for me an example from this or any other jurisdiction in the state of New Jersey where the type of development proposed here was determined to be a multifamily use?
No, this is an unusual development. Why would I have that?
Thank you, sir. I assume that in light of the 2 questions I just asked you, you're retracting your prior testimony that what we're proposing here is multifamily, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
I
sir.
stand by my testimony,
Okay,
100%.
sure. Sir, you also testified that the zoning board approval in this case is akin to, quote, carving up Central Park in New York City. Do you recall saying that?
Not those words.
Okay, well, let's look at the transcript then. Page 106, lines 16 through 21. Are you going to make me look at this transcript, or are you going to admit that you said that?
I have not seen the transcript, so
Okay.
what do we do?
Okay, we're going to look at the transcript. You got to give me a second then.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you this. The picture you're seeing here on your screen, does that look like something akin to carving up portions of Central Park in New York City?
I don't get the question.
Well, you said it was like carving up Central Park. My question to you is, what you're seeing here, which is part of the site at issue, do you think that's like carving up a park-like setting, sir?
I said, just so that everybody can follow this dialogue, I said that even Central Park, where there would be much pressure for development, has preserved its beloved Central Park. So the idea that people need more homes is not a basis for
Okay, I guess I'll have to.
deleting open
All
space.
right, well, you didn't say that, so I'm going to look it up for you. If you just give me a minute, Mr. Chair, I'm going to look up this portion of the testimony. I have to stop share. You're going to see all my secret thoughts and plans here. Oh, I'm not sharing anymore? Okay. Okay, let's look at here. This is page 106. Okay, lines 16 through 20.
There's a minute to stand it up.
Okay, I'm ready.
Sorry, Mr. Liakis.
I just want to know if I'm permitted to object. I'm not represented by counsel.
You're allowed to ask questions if you are not represented by counsel.
No objection.
You can't object to questions.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, here's what you testified to, sir, and I'm quoting this directly. This is you speaking. It is now part of the golf course. Why would it consider it available for land? However, township authorization, in my view, to carve up this golf course for housing could set a disastrous precedent for future rounds of affordable housing, potentially putting other open space, government use open space on the auction block to be replaced with housing. Even Manhattan, with its constant pressures for more housing, has left intact its beloved Central Park. Retaining that open space serves the entire population rather than benefiting a handful of people of converting it to housing. Retaining this open space that we are talking about in this application in Morris Township would serve that same important function. So my question to you, sir, is you are analogizing this site to Central Park.
I was making an analogy, correct?
Right, but this site is nothing like Central Park, sir.
Admitted.
Okay. I'm going to go back to my slides. Okay.
By the way, that which you just read sounded a lot more like me than your prior characterization of what I had said.
Okay, sir. You also testified that placing homes so close to a golf course is, quote, foolish. You remember that?
Yes,
Okay. So I'm going to show you a slide here. Now, these are homes on the golf course on the other side of Springbrook. Are the people living in these homes fools?
that's an unfair question.
Okay. Are the people living in those homes fools?
Still an unfair question.
Are the people living on the golf course fools?
Council.
Okay.
Ask and answer, Mr. Counsel.
Okay, so you're not going to answer that question.
That's correct.
Okay,
It's a ridiculous question.
sure. And how about these people on Armstrong who live right on the golf course? Are they fools as well?
Same answer.
Okay. It's only, sir, the people that we're proposing to live in our homes that are foolish then. Is that what your testimony is?
I made no characterization of any human being foolish.
Oh,
I said the idea was foolish, and you know that.
oh.
So don't try
So-
to characterize my
so-
testimony as something that it is
Okay, let's
not.
not get argumentative. Let's ask questions, people.
So it's not foolish then to have homes on a golf course, correct?
It's foolish to place these homes along a fairway.
Okay. And what about the homes along the fairway there?
I wasn't evaluating them.
Right, but I'm showing them to you right now. Is
Okay.
it foolish to have those homes on the fairway?
I'm not able to speak to
Okay,
that.
'cause
I
you
didn't
won't answer that.
evaluate-
Okay.
Let him answer before.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did not evaluate those homes.
Okay. And looking at them now, is it foolish to have those homes along the fairway?
I did not evaluate those homes.
Okay. You also testified that stray golf balls would create, quote, a safety risk. You must have done some studies or simulations showing the impact of stray balls, correct?
I happen to have been part of a golf course application that involved testimony to that very effect.
Okay, so in this case, you must have done some studies or simulations showing the impact of stray balls from this project, correct?
I did not do a
Okay.
study or a simulation.
All right, so Mr. Priscillano, you have done no such studies. You also testified that this project would, quote, constrain the realm of play for users of the golf course, end quote. You recall that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you speak to anyone at the club, and I'm talking about the Springbrook Club, about how this project will, quote, constrain the realm of play for golfers?
I did not.
Okay, why not?
That was my own conclusion.
Okay, did you ask permission for the club to walk the course to understand the flow of play at this course?
I did not.
Okay, and you're not an expert in golf courses, are you?
I am not.
Okay, do you even play golf?
I don't.
Okay. You testified, quote, from an aesthetic perspective, the open views to largely natural surroundings would be ruined by the placement of a housing development in this location. Do you recall saying that, sir?
Yes.
Can you please point me to the photographs and renderings that you produced in this case showing how views to natural surroundings will be, quote, ruined by this project?
You know that I did not submit an exhibit to that regard.
Excuse me?
I did not submit an exhibit to that regard.
Okay. So you have zero evidence to support this opinion other than what's in your head, sir. Is that correct?
Again,
Objection. That's not what he said, counsel.
I'm asking him a different question.
Rephrase the question, please.
All right. You have zero evidence to support that opinion other than your years of experience, correct?
my years of experience are
Okay.
very formidable, and they matter in this proceeding.
Okay. You testified that the traffic generated from this site will be, quote, especially impactful. Is that correct?
At the intersection with Mount Kimball, yes.
Okay. How many trips per day are going to be generated by this site?
Doesn't matter. There will be new trips attributed to this land that aren't there now.
Okay. So it doesn't matter how many trips will be generated from the site.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Or how many trips are going to be generated from this site?
I don't have the number.
Okay. And you're not a traffic expert, are you?
No,
Okay. Did the objectors you represent in this case retain a traffic expert?
they did not.
Okay. So, and you're not qualified to give any opinion on traffic, sir, isn't that right?
That's not correct.
Okay. But you are, so you are a traffic expert.
I'm not a traffic expert, but when you work as a planner for 40 years, you get to understand how traffic works.
Have you ever been qualified as a traffic expert in the state of New Jersey?
Nope.
Mr. Pesolano, you testified, quote, "If the site is to be maintained and managed by," this is another point, "if the site is to be maintained and managed by a management entity or a homeowner association, that is the mode that is proposed here. Both are prone to sudden widespread maintenance failures, in which case a large tract of very visible land could become a source of blight quite quickly and for extended periods." Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Can you please provide me with an example of a, quote, "sudden widespread maintenance failure involving a property in Morris Township that has occurred over the last 100 years?"
What is it with these examples that you seek from me? As if it's necessary to
Can you please answer the question?
justify the opinion.
Can you answer the question?
I don't have examples,
Thank you.
as you asked.
Do you think the fine men and women of the Morristown zoning office, owners of the golf course, and neighboring property owners would allow this project to become blighted by sudden widespread maintenance failures?
Let me explain the basis for my statement.
Okay, but can you
If you
answer the
will.
question I asked you?
I need to explain myself
Let him
first.
explain him.
Sure.
For a period, I served as a zoning inspector in a municipality
Can you
and
name the municipality?
at Raritan Township, Hunterdon County. And part of my role was to check on properties that were in foreclosure. And at that time, there were many. And there were several situations where simply getting the bank to cut the grass took an entire season, and it still didn't happen sometimes. So when you have a single entity, such as a homeowners association, responsible for this 4.7 acres of land and the maintenance of its grounds, if that organization or some part of it should fail, then there can be a lengthy and prolonged issue with getting the property to look better. And that is based on my actual experience
Okay.
with those matters.
So your opinion in this case, that the way that this property is proposed will cause a sudden widespread maintenance failure,
It might.
is based completely and totally on one experience you had in Raritan Township with a bank. Is that correct?
No, not one experience.
Well, that's the one you said.
Many experiences.
Any experiences that you're aware of this happening in Morris Township?
I do not have that.
Okay. You testified that the purpose of the application was to, quote, "embellish the developer's own welfare." Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you know of any private developer in history who did not try to make a profit from constructing a project?
Profit it typically drives development projects. Yes.
Right. So that's not surprising, sir, is it?
Not surprised.
Okay. And you, sir, here are not here pro bono, are you?
That's correct.
All right. You're being paid by the objectors to render an opinion in this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And without that payment, you would not even be sitting here. Is that fair?
That's the setup.
Can you show me the market study or the data that you relied upon supporting your opinion that there's no need for this type of housing in Morris Township?
Can the witness keep his voice up? It's sometimes it's not being picked up by the recording.
Did I say there was no need for this type of housing? Can you tell me how and where I said that?
No. Oh, so do you think there is a need for this housing?
Maybe.
Fair enough. You're saying that this is an attempt to rezone the property. Is that correct?
Yes.
In fact, you said, quote, "It's the wholesale rewriting of the zone plan." You remember that?
I did not say wholesale rewriting of the zone plan. I do not believe.
Well, you did say it, but I mean, if you want me to go back, I can look at the words. Are you sure you didn't say it?
That's your call.
Mm.
If you want to refresh me,
Yeah, it
I'm
doesn't
willing
matter.
to listen.
Doesn't matter. You believe that it's a rewriting of the zone plan, correct?
I believe that it is writing zoning differently than it exists
Are you-
without the benefit of the governing body's participation.
Are you familiar with the Supreme Court's decision of AMG Associates v. Springfield Township?
I am not.
Well, that is the primary case that deals with a zoning board that was engaging in improper rezoning. And you've never even heard of that case, sir?
I answered the question.
Mr. Pessolano, do you know that the key analysis that one must undertake in determining if there's improper rezoning is an evaluation of the size of the tract itself, the size of the tract in relationship to the size and character both of the district in which it's located and the municipality as a whole? Have you heard that before, that standard?
I will say no,
You've never heard that before?
not read to me like that.
Okay, but you heard of the gist of what I said before?
I approach this with a common sense perspective relative to the subject property.
Mr. Pessolano, how many acres are in the OSGU zone? Mr. Pessolano, if I said 3,378 acres, does that sound close to you?
That sounds about right.
Okay.
yes. I was looking for Mr. Phillips' memo
That's okay. Well,
on the OSG.
so how many acres is this site that we're talking about here?
Total site is 29 acres and change.
How large is the site that we're looking to build the homes on?
About 4.7 acres.
Okay. What percent of 3,378 acres is 4.74 acres?
I think Mr. Tobia characterized it as a fairly small number.
Yes, 0.14%. Does that sound fair to you?
I won't dispute that.
Okay. Mr. Pessolano, can you tell us with a straight face that 0.14% of the total acreage in the OSGU zone, just 0.1% is enough to satisfy the standard set forth by the Supreme Court in the AMG case?
Well, it's a faulty question you're asking. If I haven't reviewed the case, how can I compare it to it?
Okay, what about the principle that I read to you? That you have to look at the size of the tract in relation to the total acreage of that zone in the entire town.
I'll tell you what I considered in making that remark. My remark was based on the substantiality of the tract, the substantiality of the loss of open space in that prominent location. Those impressed me most in formulating my finding.
Is it fair to say that you did not consider at all the fact that just 0.1% of the OSGU property is actually being impacted here?
Well, one doesn't take into one's awareness the entirety of all the OSGU land in the township of Morris. So what you're seeing in front of you at the moment, when that is diminished by such a substantial amount, that is what one sees, and that's what I'm reflecting on in my evaluation.
Okay. And again, you've never heard of this Supreme Court case, AMG Associates v. Springfield Township,
I'm
correct?
not familiar with it.
Okay. Sir, you allege that in your testimony, based on your now, I think, debunked opinion that this is a multifamily project, that there are nearly 100 variances and waivers required that are not part of this application. Does that sound fair?
I cited them as departures from the zone plan and zoning ordinance.
So do you believe that the township professionals missed all of those variances in their reports?
I don't.
Okay, well then how could you, I don't understand. Do you think there were 100 variances that were missed or not?
I enumerated them extensively in my testimony. There was not an assertion that they should have been variances. They were identified as deviations or departures in my testimony.
Okay, so none of them should have been variance in this case, correct?
No, but they had
Okay.
the characteristics of regulation of land development.
Right.
And going by standards for that, as is typically done in municipal development, day in and day out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pestilano. I don't have any other questions.
You're welcome.
Board members, any questions of this witness? Board professionals, any questions of this witness? Yes.
Before Paul goes, I have one. Good evening, Mr. Pestilano. And I don't have the transcripts in front of me, so I'm doing this more from memory. In your testimony last time, you talked about safety issues with having perpendicular parking along the road. What was that comment based on?
It was based on observing the width of the roadway relative to the parking space and the sidewalk on the other side, opposite the parking space across the roadway. I thought the proximity of pedestrians to a backing vehicle possibly not being visible at all times could be a safety configuration.
And is that a common
A poor safety configuration, excuse
in
me.
your experience, is that a common occurrence to have vehicles backing out across a sidewalk on a residential street?
Residential streets are typically wider paved pathways than what is proposed in this development, by my experience and observation and plan review experience. So this is a more diminutive road width, and that's what raised the question in my mind in the first place.
And are there any studies or backup information that ties width of the road and backing out of a perpendicular space to crashes?
I base my opinion on hundreds of plan reviews throughout my career. That's the basis of it. I'm not a traffic expert.
That was my only question, Mr. Chairman, is what that was based on.
Mr. Phillips, you have a question?
Yeah, but before we do that, can I just jump back into what Joe was just saying? Joe, do you think that the proposed roadway is unusually narrow?
It is narrower than, there is a small RSI exception, so it is narrower than typical, but in my opinion, I've never seen any correlation between making the road a foot narrower versus the number of pedestrian crashes backing out of parking spaces. I'm not aware of a correlation of those two items.
There are sidewalks here. Would there be any correlation between backing out of a parking space, like a visitor's parking space, and incidents involving pedestrians walking on sidewalks? Do you have any information on that?
I don't have data to share with the board.
Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I have to slide up, Paul, I don't think. That's okay, I talk loud. I think you testified that this application, in your opinion, amounted to a rezoning and that this board didn't have the authority to rezone and the matter belonged before the township committee. I just want to be clear, you're not suggesting that this board does not have jurisdiction to hear this application, are you?
No, I'm not.
You also opine that, and I may be paraphrasing, but if approved, that other owners of OSGU zone land might look to convert some of their acreage to housing. And I guess I'd ask you, wouldn't you agree that any matter that comes before this board basically stands or falls on the merits and that would in no way be precedential?
I agree that precedent does not drive zoning board decisions, generally speaking.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Vitolo, I think he asked you this, but I took notes from your testimony. I think you said that the homes were too close to the golf course. And I would just ask, is that based on any standard principle literature that would support that assertion?
Again, just my exposure to the issue fairly recently regarding rearrangement of a golf green at a golf club in West Orange. And there were neighbors along the edge of that fairway who had golf balls landing in their backyards at a distance farther from the fairway than what is proposed in this application.
But you're not suggesting that the distance between the holes or the fairways and the homes is in violation of some accepted golf course design standard, are you?
I'm not suggesting that, Mr. Phillips.
And then just lastly, I just want to understand your opinion on the multifamily housing. You're saying that 3 or more dwelling units on a single parcel, whether those units are attached or not, constitute multifamily housing? Is that
Yeah.
your opinion?
Yes,
You realize your opinion is not consistent with any accepted definition of multifamily housing, at least that I'm aware of. I mean, Mr. Vitolo cited the MLUL. I can cite the Morris Township Land Use Ordinance. I can cite the Illustrated Book of Development Definitions, which we as planners, as you're aware, use as sort of the Bible, or any other zoning ordinance that I've reviewed over my 40-plus year professional career. So I just want to give you the opportunity to either change your opinion or reinforce your opinion that this constitutes multifamily housing, because I just don't understand that opinion, to be perfectly honest.
I would need
Professional to professional.
much more time to evaluate all the sources that you just enumerated. So I'm not going to opine on those, obviously, but throughout my career as a planner, 3 or more dwelling units has stood and passed muster as a multifamily use.
Whether attached or
It's
not.
more than 1 or 2 dwellings,
Whether those units are attached or not.
whether they're attached or not.
Thank you.
You're
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Hanson? No. Any members of the public with questions of this witness? Yeah, okay. Close the public portion. Any board members, based upon the questions asked by the professionals, have any questions of this witness?
It's less of a question than an observation.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask if you walk, because you already said you didn't walk the property, but if I were trying to establish that there was a risk of golf balls, I would go out in the property and look for golf balls or tracks of people going to pick them up. That would be what I would do.
I did walk the area adjacent to the subject property.
And were there a lot of golf balls?
The vegetation was not such that it allowed discovery of golf balls off of the manicured part of the greens. It's natural vegetation today where the proposed project lies. So finding golf balls in those thickets just wasn't my mission.
Okay.
Question, how did you take into account the, I guess, the Springbrook condominiums? And how far they are off the fairway? I think it's the 5th fairway.
I didn't look at those. They're in a different zoning district.
So you didn't take a look at the screening that might be in place there, the white pines?
No.
Okay. Also, you indicated, and this was emphasized on cross-examination, that an HOA can possibly fail by mismanagement and suddenly the whole development turns into a blight. Is that what you said?
Something along those lines, yes.
Now, HOA is the accepted method of management for condominium associations. Is that correct?
Yes.
So is that inherent in every condominium association?
It is.
So in your opinion, no condominium association could ever be created?
I didn't say that. I said there was risk of that happening here with the management that was proposed.
And the management is, have you read the proposed bylaws?
I don't have a copy of those bylaws.
Because the
I don't know
bylaws
that they
haven't been written
even
yet, I don't think.
exist.
And wouldn't they be consistent with other homeowners associations,
Probably, I would expect so.
including a capital improvement fund or maintenance fund to replace items as necessary?
That's typically part
HOA.
of HOA arrangements, yes.
So if they're well managed financially, there's not a problem.
When it's well managed, no problem, but when it fails, that's when it gets to be pretty dicey pretty fast.
But as far as you don't know of any example of any condominium association failing in Morris Township.
I am not aware of that.
Okay. Any other questions from board
Well,
members?
actually, your example from Raritan Township, where you were looking at foreclosures, were those HOAs or were those individual owners?
They were individual bank-owned properties. Not,
Okay.
I'm sorry, not bank-owned properties that are in foreclosure with banks having the jurisdiction for maintenance.
But were any of them HOAs?
No. My point is that a bank it should be an upstanding organization in the community. And if they drag their feet after repeated notices, a similar thing could happen on a bigger scale with a single managed property, single management entity. I'm glad it doesn't happen all the time, but the possibility does exist.
Any other board members with questions? Board professionals?
There was a, Mr. Chair, there was a question about, some banter about setting precedent. Because about 3 months ago, we had before us a OSGU zoning on Sussex Avenue, I think it was. So if you're saying, was your statement that this will not set a precedent? Or will it set a, in my mind, I think in most board members' mind, it will set a precedent.
Okay, so let me answer that.
Okay.
I don't remember the prior case that you're mentioning, but every case that comes to this board stands on its own merits. Every piece of property is separate and apart from any other piece of property. So whatever this board does with this application or whatever it did with any prior application does not set any precedent for you, for this board going forward.
The precedent I was speaking, if I may, speaking to during my testimony was the idea of using open space property, converting that to housing, not the actual processing through the zoning board, but the idea of it was the precedent that concerned me.
So you're saying there would be you think a going forward precedent of turning OSG property into single family use?
Exactly.
It's permitted in the OSG.
It is.
Okay.
But again, my testimony was that this was not single family. It was unauthorized layout of property.
Okay.
Board professionals, any questions? That's public hearing.
Yeah.
Any members of the public have any questions based upon the latest series of questions? Do you wish to it's time for questions only.
It'll be a question, it'll be phrased as a question for the.
Sure, come on up, Mr. Liak, over to the microphone.
Would you state your full name for the record,
Nicholas
please?
Liakis, 1 Springbrook Road.
Yes, Mr. Liak, your
So the
question.
question, just based on the precedent issue here, just a fairness question. Fair to say that so far in this hearing, although a precedent may not have been formally set, when we're drawing comparisons to other developments like the Springbrook condominiums, it's certainly something that can be used to bolster an applicant's request, correct?
I have seen that happen, yes.
So I think just a moment ago, we made reference to the Springbrook condominiums and their placement on the golf course and how golf balls may interfere with that development and the screening involved. Although it's not a precedent, you'd agree, sir, that it's certainly something that can be used to compare, at least.
I think it's used all the time in different ways by planning professionals in particular who want to advance their application, and they'll turn to evidence of something like what they're proposing on the ground somewhere.
And do you feel that if this application is approved, that it may, although not being a precedent, it may be some point of reference for other applicants to use similar?
Yeah, I object to the question. Sorry, but that's just complete speculation. And anything that this board does is not precedential for any future application.
Okay, should I re-ask the question?
If it's, as long as it's not speculative.
With regards to the Springbrook condominium, do you know where, and I think we're referring to the existing condominiums that are on the fifth hole, fairway. Do you know where that is in relation to the actual hole itself? Is it near the tee box? Is it in the fairway? Is it near the green?
I did not study that condominium development.
Sir, would it influence your opinion in any way if I was to tell you that the actual, that development is near the tee box as opposed to a drop zone or an area where the initial tee shot might fall?
That sounds like a different situation. Yeah, you're welcome.
I just know for the record, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I know for the record, we did not use the example of the other, that was, I think, the board side. Yeah, so the applicant did not use that as an example, just for the record.
Any other members of the public with questions? Okay. Close the public portion. Any other questions?
I have no more questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mullins?
No questions.
So then we move on to your next,
Sure. Stephen Duda.
yes, Mr. Duke.
Mr. Duda, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you
Yes.
God. Thank you. And your full name for the record, please?
Stephen Andrew Duda.
Thank you.
Hello again, Mr. Duda.
Hello.
When you testified at the last hearing, you said that you reviewed the file in this case. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. Were transcripts in the file?
Transcripts were not in the file.
Okay. So you didn't do anything to review prior, you didn't review any prior transcripts from any of the hearings in this case?
That's correct.
Okay. Yet you gave expert testimony about stormwater management, which was a subject of much debate in prior hearings. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of it being a big conversation because I didn't review the transcripts.
Okay. So you don't know what anyone in this application testified to about stormwater, correct?
I mean, there's requirements for stormwater and you either meet them or you don't.
No, but I'm asking you, the witnesses, our expert questions, other expert board comments, you don't have any awareness of any of that, correct?
No,
Okay. Yet you gave an expert opinion in this case.
that is correct.
Okay. Sir, you gave some testimony about existing pipes on the site and whether they serve any function. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Are you aware that that issue was first raised by Mr. McBriar during the January 30th, 2024 hearing?
I was not at that meeting, so no, I'm not aware.
Okay, do you know that he raised it again during the July 22nd, 2024 hearing?
I don't believe I was at that meeting, so no, I'm not aware.
Okay. You testified that it's not clear if the pipes carry water to or from the site, and that the issue will need to be clarified because the pipes will be located under the proposed homes. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Okay. What did our civil engineer, Mr. Sharma, what did he testify about those pipes?
Now, I believe he said that they were going to be removed.
How do you know that when you didn't read the transcripts?
I actually may have been at the July meeting. I do remember him saying that they would be removed.
Oh, so you were at the July meeting.
I think I was. I'm not sure. I believe I was.
Respectfully, I mean, how could you not know if you were here or not, right?
I do a lot of cases.
Okay. So, sir, I'm sorry, hold on a second. So do you recall what Mr. Sharma testified about the pipes?
Beyond that they were going to be removed, no, I don't.
Okay. And you don't recall him testifying that they were, they didn't serve any purpose?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't know how you could determine that without actually doing a test, figuring out where they go, where they come from.
Okay, well, I'm going to read you what Mr. Sharma testified, okay? He said, quote, and this is at page 55, line 20. Those pipes that you're referring to are leftovers from some past activities on site. So they're not really functioning as active draining features or facilities. So there will be improvements over those, and those will be removed. And in response to Mr. McBriar's question as whether he's confirmed those facts, Mr. Sharma testified at page 56, line 8, quote, the answer is yes, we looked at them, and they're there, but they're not functional anymore. Yet you still raise this as an issue.
I mean, on the plans, they only show them going into the site with a line where they end.
Do you think Mr. Sharma's lying?
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, do you have any reason to question the veracity of what he testified about?
I mean, I would hope that he would show where the pipes are, if they are through the site, where do they end? Where do they begin? What were their purpose? They had a purpose at some time.
Okay, but I'm asking you, he testified under oath that he investigated the issue and he said they're not functional, they're going to be removed. Do you have any reason to doubt the veracity of what he said?
I just hope he would put it on the plan, make
Okay.
it clear. Engineering plans show you what the intent is.
I know you said that, but do you have any reason to doubt the veracity of what he said?
No.
Okay. Now, sir, you made a lot of this issue of soil testing during your testimony. If soil tests confirm that the soil infiltration rates that we projected are in line, you have no issues with our assumptions and analysis on stormwater, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, were soil tests performed?
They're being performed.
Okay.
And so my question to you is, if those tests confirm that the infiltration rates are similar to what we're projecting for the site, do you have any issues with our assumptions and conclusions?
So soil tests are not only for infiltration rates, it's also for the presence of groundwater or any other limiting zone. So no, the infiltration rate may be okay, but you may not have sufficient depth of groundwater.
Sir, have you ever done, and I think we answered this, you've never done a project as a professional engineer where you served as the civil on stormwater, correct?
Not in New Jersey.
Okay, so you know that, or you don't know, that soil testing is often a condition of approval in these matters, and the soil testing results will be sent to the township engineer and DEP to confirm that they're in line with the plans. Is that correct?
This project does not get DEP approval, so no, these soil testing will not be sent to the DEP.
So As for the first part, they'll be sent to the township engineer, correct?
Shouldn't they be part of the public record, though?
Well, they will be part of the public record.
But they have to be heard by the public, right?
Everything that we submit in this case is the public record.
Is it going to be part of a hearing?
It's a condition. Do you know what that is?
I'm aware of what conditions are,
Okay.
and they're usually not heard in a public meeting.
In all of your vast experience in New Jersey, are you aware that soil testing is never a condition of approval?
I don't know.
No, because you don't do work in New Jersey. I don't have any other question for this witness.
Okay. When you say that the soil testing and should be part of this hearing, are you saying that the township engineers in the office would not be competent to evaluate the results of that testing?
No, I just think it would be difficult for somebody to oppose any kind of a calculation error if it's handled as a condition of approval.
So you're saying that if there was an error done by the applicants, the builders, hydrologist, and the engineering's office missed that, that could be a problem. But
I think so.
But do you have any knowledge of that ever happening in Morris Township?
Not in Morris Township,
Anything in Morris County?
not in Morris County.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Any board members with questions? Mr. Oler, any questions?
No questions.
Board professionals, any questions? Yes, Mr. Hanson.
When you made your assumptions on soil characteristics and groundwater, did you use the NCRS website to find where the soils were and what the groundwater depths were and that type of thing?
Yes, a USDA website.
USDA, okay. NCRS has this another website. Are you aware that soil profiles in that system are not always correct?
They're not always correct, but
Okay,
you need to do soil tests to confirm it.
right. Do you ever look at NCRS or GeoWeb or whatever and then look back at the old Rutgers series soil surveys that were done by the state back in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s?
No, I just stick with the current USDA maps.
Okay, because I always cross-reference just to make sure that there is continuity between that, and there's not a lot of continuity. And my experience is the NCRS is too general. Rutgers series is more exacting. So that's all I have.
Any members of the public with questions of this witness? Seeing none.
You're on.
Just one, yeah, let me close the public first. Seeing none, close the public portion. Mr. Mullen.
Just two quick questions.
Can you use the microphone, please?
Yes, I'll be
Thank you.
happy to. So with respect to an inspection of the site, would you seek the opportunity to participate in an inspection of the site relative to these water-related issues?
At the previous meeting, I did offer to visit the site when they did the soil testing.
Did you ultimately make that offer?
Oh, I made the offer in the public comment.
And is there something that you think people have forgotten as a result of your concerns that you raised in your report? Is there something new that has arisen in any way?
No, there's nothing new. The soil testing is done to confirm the soils can accept the water and confirm if there's any limiting zone.
And with respect to a breakdown of your existing work as between New Jersey and other jurisdictions, what percentage of your work is in New Jersey?
So far, all my professional work is in PA.
Okay,
Um,
thank you. No more questions of witness. Thanks.
Any follow-up?
No.
Board members? Professional? Okay, you're excused. All right. Do you have any other witnesses?
Mr. Chair, that closes my portion of cross-examination.
Okay, Mr. Mullen, do you have any other witnesses?
No, I do not.
Okay. Open up the public for- Okay. Any members of the public that wish to speak regarding this application, please come forward. Mr. Schillings. Well, this would be comments, right?
Yeah, this is comments. Would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear that any testimony you give to this board to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And would you state your name, please?
5 Armstrong Road.
I'm sorry, your name again, please?
Your name, please. Your
Alan,
name.
repeat your name, please.
Alan McAlpin, 5 Armstrong Road.
Can you spell your last name, please?
M-C-A-L. P is in Papa, N is in November.
Okay, Mr. McAlpin, what do you wish to say?
Our open space is precious. Once lost to sprawl, it cannot be readily reclaimed. Thank you.
Mr. Schillings.
Larry Schillings, 5 Spring Hill Lane.
Mr. Schillings, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you,
Is that good enough?
yeah, that'd be fine. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Well, I want to thank all the board members, all fellow homeowners in our township for your volunteering of time and effort to hear and rule on Morris Township land use issues. I give you so much credit sitting, I've been to 4 or 5 of these meetings, although they're brutal. And, but it's a job that has to be done, and I thank you for your efforts. We all give back in our own ways to our township, and it's very much appreciated. I recall our last Springbrook neighborhood rally to your meetings to challenge another developer who had money-making plans involving a subdivision request of a 1-acre property at the corner of Springbrook Road and Armstrong. He wanted to build 2 railroad homes on a single home lot. And together a decision was made not to approve this request, resulting in the building of a beautiful 1 single family home that now looks like it has been in our neighborhood for about 50 years. A new, beautiful home, done right, all in accordance with current Morris Township land use laws. We continue to thank the board, that board, for holding firm on our land use laws, resulting in this wonderful addition to our Springbrook neighborhood. We return to your meetings with another challenge to another developer who wishes to maximize their financial investment on land in our neighborhood across from Mount Kimball Firehouse, adjacent to Springbrook Country Club, where my family has been a member for 47 years. As a 40-year resident of the township and a Springbrook neighborhood member, I am not against land use development. Our land use laws were established over the years by fellow township residents serving in the best interests of our community. Please do not dismiss these laws and all this previous work lightly. This panel, or this parcel in question, is zoned for 1 single family on 3 acres. I would have no issues with this development or even with a minor variation on that plan. Let's say 2 homes, 3 homes, 4 homes, all single family homes. Please uphold the long time established land use laws for this site say no to this developer who once again wants to maximize his return on his investment by presenting a cluster of 13 large single-family homes, minimum distance apart, with the total look of a condo development, supported by a condo-type homeowners association that will pay for sanitation and road services, all in a clear violation of the land use laws in place for that very parcel of land many, many years ago. This is a stark encroachment on our Springbrook neighborhood, made up only of single-family homes, all in compliance with township land use laws. This 100% visible cluster development is too dense, and it's out of character for our Springbrook neighborhood, and requires a big swing on the board's current zoning restrictions to pull this off. These so-called carriage houses would rank in the top 20 of the largest homes in our neighborhood, consisting of about approximately 140 homes. The OSJU zoning requirements prohibit cluster residential development of this township parcel of land. While separating these 13 large single-family homes on this parcel by a minimum distance may legally preempt the cluster zoning clause, in reality, it does not. This is a cluster residential development in the heart of our township on a parcel zone for one single-family home on 3 acres of land. In closing, our Springbrook neighborhood is a very special place in our community with very well-maintained single-family homes on 1/3 to 1/2 acre lots. This is a density issue and request. Please do not mitigate nor minimize our township's long-standing land use laws for this parcel of land in question. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Any other members of the public wish to speak? Mr. Liakis? Okay. So your name, sir?
John Muschin, 24 Laurel Lane, Morris Township.
You spell your last name, please?
Sure. Mustion.
Okay, Mr. Muschin, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to come and say, one, I live in the township. I am a member of Springbrook Country Club, and I'm on the Springbrook board as well. I've been involved in this project for a number of years now. We've looked at multiple developers over time. The board has always taken an approach, put in the best, something that would integrate well with the neighborhood and be a nice look for the club. The developers that are presenting for you has done a great job. They've worked with us to make sure that they have put a wonderful project together. I just want to say I'm in favor of it. Morris Township is a beautiful town. We love it. There's a huge demand for high-end homes right now, and I think that this is a great development that could bring a lot of new residents. Thank you.
Mr. Liakis?
Would you raise your right hand? Sorry. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And again, your name for the record, please.
Nicholas Liakis, 1 Springbrook Road. I have nothing prepared. I'm just trying to appeal to the board. really just a concerned resident, I think my home is the closest in proximity in terms of the homes on Springbrook Road. I bought this house a few years ago, coming from Brooklyn. I grew up in Morristown. I grew up on Harder Road. I grew up at Springbrook Country Club. When I saw the opportunity to buy this home, my wife and I jumped on it. We actually made an offer over asking price. This was in the height of the whole mess with the housing, prices. Before we even stepped foot on the property, because I knew that Springbrook and the club and this community was something that I wanted to raise my family and I wanted my kids to be a part of, because it means something to me and it means something to everybody in this room who has taken a lot of their time to be here on this application. And all I can say is this does not fit the neighborhood. I think Mr. Shillings said it perfectly. This is a density issue. No one is against developing land. No one is against new housing. But the problem is you have, and just for lack of a better term, you have a development that is being stuffed into a place where it doesn't fit. We're trying to put, this cluster of homes, and whether it's a multifamily or whatever the characteristic may be in terms of what's written in the code, we can all see it for what it is. It's too many homes on too little land. And the developers came in here with big promises on they wanted to be good neighbors and they wanted to do the right thing, although I was being heckled during my last line of questioning by the developer. I have questions about why is this being done? Why are we jamming this into our neighborhood? And it's, I want to be optimistic. I hope there's no issues. I mean, I don't want to kind of throw anybody under the bus. I was offered a new driveway if I didn't oppose this, right? I'm not going to throw my neighborhood under the bus so that the developer can come in and jam these homes in here. I have concerns with the traffic. I'm not a traffic expert, and I don't handle this type of law on a regular basis. I'm just coming in, just trying to appeal to common sense. You put 13 homes with families living in them, they have to go to school somewhere. They have to drive in and out, right? The golf balls are going to go into, I've hit golf balls in that yard myself, plenty of them. I have a strong faith, I like to call it. But realistically, I mean, this is something that's going to change the fabric of our neighborhood. And we all want to be good neighbors and we all want to invite people to come in and enjoy our neighborhood, but they can't abuse it. And I would have no objection to allowing some sort of variance, to build some single-family homes that conform, at least in some part, with the neighborhood. But this has gone too far. This is very far from what the expectation of the community is. I don't think anybody in this room, when they bought their home, contemplated something like this being in the middle of this neighborhood. I certainly didn't. We are definitely alarmed at what may happen. It's something that we really hope that you will consider, if a variance is warranted, that it be tamed a little bit here, because 13 homes, it's too much. You can bring in all the lawyers, all the experts you want, right? And try to justify the size of this or the distance between homes, and there's always some justification you can make. But at the end of the day, what I'm seeing here is the only thing that the developers have going for them is it's going to generate tax dollars. And that's important, I get it, but that cannot be the only reason for granting a wild variance, not just a small variance, a wildly abusive variance to this plot of land. It just can't be. I mean, they came in early on saying that they were going to put low income or housing units. That's gone, right? They Trojan horse that one. They came in with those intentions. What are they going to do? They're going to write a check to try to make it all better. I don't see any actual low-income housing. I don't see that anywhere. So it's just like every other development where they're going to write a check and try to absolve themselves of, actually having to make any real impact on Morris Township, on Morris County, on our community with the low-income housing. So I ask that you see this for what it is, and if you do decide that a variance is warranted, please I beg of you, for the sake of everybody in this room, for my sake, for my children's sake, right, dealing with the traffic issues and all that comes with it, please consider doing it at a much lower rate. 4 homes, 5 homes, something along those lines that will conform. We will welcome them with open arms. But please, before you make this decision, please consider the entire neighborhood and the fact that everybody here has taken their time, because it really means something. Thank you.
And the other members of the public.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And your full name, please?
Deborah Bruce Bednarski. I live at 5 Albert Road. I've been a resident of, well, I actually grew up in the Springbrook neighborhood, not to give away my age, but I was there in the 70s at 3 Springbrook Road. And when we moved back with our family, it was the neighborhood we wanted to be at. We purchased a home at 5 Albert Road in 2000, a long time ago. I'm an analyst by trade as well as a realtor, so excuse me if I kind of get lost in the weeds. I think there are many points against this project that I will just comment on a few. I'd like to say, first of all, that the burden on the neighbors to defend against these extreme types of zoning variance requirements is significant. This is, I'm sure the developer's attorney can tell you, I think the 8th meeting we've had to all gather for, not to mention the cost that the neighbors have to endure to hire attorneys and experts to kind of defend against this constant onslaught of people who want to just abuse our zoning ordinances. It's really, it's pretty shocking. As a realtor, I do a lot of work in Morris Township, and I'd love to point to the single-family nature of our community and how important that is. When people make a huge financial investment in their home, they should be able to rely on our zoning laws. We should have some sort of protection against this kind of overdevelopment and aggressive violation of the zoning ordinance. The very law firm representing the developer was here arguing against this kind of subdivision and development during the 5 Springbrook Road application when they tried to subdivide that into 2 lots. Their concerns were about traffic.
I don't know what she's talking about. What are you talking about? What's 5 Springbrook Road?
Sills, Cummins, and Gross was.
I probably wasn't even at the
attorney on their firm opposed something
That's
else. They are
100%
hired to
false. I
represent a
never worked
client.
on that.
It's not.
So it's not,
It is.
well, just,
Ted
just,
Sandieri hired
Mr.
the attorneys.
Dollar, just a second.
Sandieri?
Excuse me. It's not relevant.
I was just responding to his contract.
It's not relevant whether his firm represented somebody else in opposition to another development. They are attorneys, they are hired to represent their client.
Well, that application was smartly rejected by this board as being inconsistent with the nature of the neighborhood. And now we have a beautiful single-family home that sits on that property, which is a real asset to the neighborhood. The whole project is inconsistent with the character of the neighbor. But the developers keep using the terms unique and not contemplated by the master plan, and I have to think that there is a good reason for that. Many of these condos, and not single homes, they're condos, it's a cluster development in the OSGU, which is prohibited. Many of these condos will have rear-facing yards to the street, which is uncommon in Morris Township. We don't often drive down a road in Morris Township where we're looking at the rear of the house. But many of these homes in this development will do just that. I can attest, as having been a member of Springbrook since 1977, that a good portion of balls off that tee box go directly into this property. As a matter of fact, the border of the property is an active part of the golf course. It is a lateral hazard, and you're actually allowed to play ball from that area. So there are golf balls in the property, many of them, as far as I monitor my golf, might be more. The focus on the single-family RA15 zoning, when they're doing calculations for density and that kind of comparison, is only part of the story. 33% of the homes that surround this development are actually RA35, which have significantly more substantial setbacks and requirements. For example, the RA35 lot requires 35,000 square feet for footlots compared to the 15,000 feet for the RA15. As I said, a third of the surrounding properties were actually RA35. The average lot size of surrounding individual homes is nearly 0.7 acres. There's about 24 lots that surround the parcel. The average size for those lots is 0.7 acres, compared to the likely acreage for these units, which would be 0.28. The average square foot per acre on the existing homes is approximately 3,900 square feet. That's per acre, not per unit. The square feet for this development per acre is contemplated to be closer to 10,000. That's more than 2.5 times the existing homes. And that's not accounting for the roads that are going to be in the development. The developers try to sweeten the presentation by offering new signage for the neighborhood. This neighborhood is nearly 100 years old. If the residents wanted new signage, we would have done it by now. It's not in character with the homes or the feeling of Springbrook neighborhood. I can go on. I'm just going to say, I'm not sure where it ends if we approve something like this in the township. My home backs into another lot that goes down to Harder Road. Between the two of us, we have about 2.25 acres. I hate to think that developers would contemplate putting 5, 10, 15 homes on that parcel were we to sell it. It will grossly change the character of our neighborhood, and it will be irreparable. Thank you so much.
Any other members of the public who wish to speak? We got a, who wants to?
Caitlin Pappas, 5 Springbrook Road.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And I'm sorry, but would you say your name again?
Caitlin Pappas, Pappas, and I am 5 Springbrook Road.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns about the proposed development. My husband Nick and I purchased the property at 5 Springbrook in October of 2021. One of the main reasons we bought it was its lovely view. That's the open space of the country club affords. Before actually making the purchase of 5 Springbrook, we did quite a bit of research. We looked at to make sure that the view would be maintained into the future before we invested in the property and built a new home on it. We looked into the financials of the club, and we also looked at the designations of the property by the town of Morris. I think we can all agree that open space in the state of New Jersey is a precious commodity. And we feel very fortunate to live in a state and town that works hard to fund and preserve open spaces. As such, knowing that the land owned by Springbrook Country Club was designated as open space by the Township of Morris, we felt confident that our new home would maintain its lovely view far into the future, and that our investment in the property was sound. Obviously now we are questioning our analysis. If the Township of Morris can approve a variance that destroys an open space so a developer can profit, I'm not sure that any open space in the Township of Morris is safe. Right now, the only reason that we can see to destroy this open space is so a developer can make a profit. And I don't think that's really a good reason to destroy open space. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If you raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And your name, please?
My name is Elizabeth Brown,
and I live at 56 Springbrook Road for over 35 years.
Thank you.
And having been here, I've had grandchildren come and visit, and we've walked around the wonderful Springbrook area. And I know that there will be children involved, whether they're visiting the people that live in these new homes that are to be built, or whether they're actually there, because if there are some bedrooms in these housing that are proposed. And I don't think that there's a really safe place for them to play. If they live there, they're gonna have bicycles and scooters and things and be out and around. That could be a traffic problem. And Springbrook has 2 lovely ponds. They have Armstrong Pond, and they have the other pond, which is on the same part of the land where the new housing development is to be. So I'm a little concerned about where they're going to play. I don't hear anything about fencing. The houses are very densely put together. I'm just concerned that they're out and about, children are curious, and they like to roam. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
And your name, please.
My name is Harry Riskin.
Spell your last name, please.
Riskin.
Spell it, please.
R-I-S-K-I-N.
Thank you.
Address?
And the essence of my talk is.
Sir, can you just give your address one more time?
Oh, sure. I live in Mendham, 10 Cromwell Lane, Mendham.
Is this open to all?
Well,
Or as a member?
Frank, do you have an objection?
No, no objection.
I have an objection.
Okay. So, Mr. Riskin, is this property, how far from your home is it to this property?
It's a significant distance.
Yeah.
I would say ballpark 4 miles.
Are you associated with Springbrook Country Club?
I am not.
Okay.
But I want to come home to Morris Township, where I lived for 23 years ago.
Mr. Riskin, I think that you lack standing to present to the board.
Unless Mr. Vitale doesn't mind.
No, but we have
I
objectors
wish you
who
would
mind.
welcome me home, but okay.
Yeah. Sorry, once you live here, you're more than welcome.
I'm sorry.
Once you live here, you're more than welcome.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, because I wanted to move into this.
Okay.
One of the houses here.
Okay. Thank you.
They're concerned about hearing your voice, so we're not going to hear from this.
No, it's all right, it's all right. There's no more commentary. I'm sorry.
Are we allowed to deny it? Is it only for residents?
Same objection.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is this,
Sit down.
are comments only allowed by residents of the township?
Well, you do have to have standing, which would be, being a resident gives you standing.
Or having some
Connection to the property.
connection to the property or adjacent to the property, near the property.
Well, he did say that he does have a connection where he wants to move here.
Yeah, that's not going to get it, so.
So whose decision is that? Yours, or is it part of?
Well, it's kind of a legal question, that, I mean, certainly the board could weigh in if you want to hear his testimony, but.
I just don't want to deny someone.
Yeah.
For a reason that isn't really a reason.
Well, the reason is under municipal land use law, you have to have standing to be able to address the board. And based on what he told us, I didn't think he had standing.
The only thing I'll say is that it's easier to strike from the record than to never hear him in the first place. That's all.
Yeah, but you're right, it's a board call, so if the board is of the opinion you should hear that, let's hear him, we'll hear him.
Any other members wish to hear this testimony? Speak now.
I'm sorry, could you just elaborate to Mr. Vitolo's point? It's easier to strike it from the record.
His point is you could hear him and then say, well, you don't have standing, so we don't have to pay attention to what you said, right? Rather than send them away without hearing them.
in court, you would do a proffer, right? You would
Yeah.
come up to the judge and you say, here's where I'm going with this. This is what I'm saying. And then the judge would say, yeah, go ahead. You can go on the record. But we don't have that in land
Yeah,
use.
we-
It's
we don't have an
it's
off-the-record
looser.
thing.
It's sort of looser rules, which is kind of,
Yeah.
to my point, let the guy, you know, if he wants to say something.
I mean, so you're saying that someone on the opposite side of our town has standing?
Yeah.
But someone who may want to move into this, if it gets approved, doesn't have standing?
If he were a contract purchaser, he would have standing.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Steve Lapper, Lapper.
Same objection? Same
Okay,
objection?
I
Can we get
I
his
have
address
standing
first?
since I'm the contract purchaser as well as the
Yeah.
principal, one of the principals of the development team in the SLOC.
Okay. So, Mr. Lapper, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you
What
solemnly-
percentage is it? You're a member of the,
I'm a principal of SLOC Development, the applicant. And as someone who intends to live in this development from day one, I believe Mr. Schuster's desire to hear from a buyer as well as Mr. Aller's consideration for somebody who could be a contract purchaser, of which I am right now, would give me standing.
I'm gonna have to defer to Mr. Aller on this. Should he have been presented as a witness by?
He doesn't
the
have to be presented as a witness by the applicant. He has an opportunity to speak now.
I'm speaking as a public.
Okay, just let me go with it.
Right, and so he has the opportunity as the public, as the contract purchaser. I think that gives him standing to speak.
Okay.
Can I?
Sure.
Sure,
can I
Mr. Mullin.
just interrupt for half a second? I'm always an advocate for letting people speak. That's what's fair, right? And you hate to be in a position to exclude somebody, but he has counsel. He has very effective counsel. And so he's made, by making that choice of counsel and pursuing this application in the way that he's had, I don't think it's right.
Let me just make a, let me just, wait, I want, wait, it's really important. Your client just stood up and made legal objections to something we were doing. You are representing him. Completely inappropriate, sir. Completely inappropriate. Yes, completely inappropriate.
Wait, hold on. If there were a court reporter here, she'd tell you she can't take it all at the same time.
I gotcha.
All right,
You don't represent Mr. Liakis, is that
No, I
correct?
do not.
Okay.
right. But understand, Mr. Mullen, we've allowed other
Excuse
people
me?
that you do represent to come up and speak, as is their right,
Stand
because
up.
they can come up and testify.
I made my point. I appreciate you
Okay.
listening, and we can carry it forward. I just don't think it's appropriate.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Mr. Lapper, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
So I just want to go through a couple of things with everybody. You know, the history of my being involved, my partners being involved, has been to try to attempt a partnership with the club and the neighbors. You heard Mr. Mustian choose us over our willingness to craft something commensurate with the structure of the club's facilities, its architecture, and its neighborhood aesthetics. They felt this lower density separate residence design made it far better with their club, and I believe the majority of their members continue to feel that way. We have always attempted to make this a better and improved project. The purchase of the adjacent property for a neighborhood park, we did a traffic study to demonstrate its minimal impact on the neighborhood. I even attended both the initial objectors meetings and listened. I stood up and even listened to all their objections and concerns. That was about a year ago. Unsure of the exact date, but I believe Mr. McAlpin could probably provide that. Through the 11 months of these hearings, we've altered this plan anytime we've heard a constructive improvement or suggestion. We've reduced the number of units of our application from 16 to 13. We substantially added larger, mature trees and committed to such. And we've committed to protecting the largest, healthiest ones. We've widened the road from the initial application, the roads and the turnarounds. We've gone from front-facing to side-facing garages. The front-facing may have been applicable, but the side-facings made more sense, look better. We heard that from members of your board and your board professionals. We're adding a sidewalk and adopting an effort to build a neighborhood-wide sign. And why is that? Because we thought the gentleman of your professionals or yourselves suggested that we adopted it accordingly. My wife Melissa is in the audience. She's sitting in the back row, and we are finally empty nesters. We very much hope and intend to live here in this project from day one and be the very best neighbors anyone could ask for. What I've heard tonight from some of the other comments, which everybody has a right to concern themselves with, is they're worried. I just heard about kids play, but yet they're not worried about kids playing from the single-family homes bordering the 16th fairway or the 17th fairway or the 18th fairway or any of the other fairways. I happen to be in the golf business. I happen to own a public golf course called Fox Hollow down in Branchburg, and I'm part of the management ownership group at a private golf course up in New York. I've been involved in the golf business for the best part of about a decade and a half. I've been a Golf Magazine panelist. I've been published multiple times at Golf Magazine elsewhere, and I'm probably one of the better quasi-experts suitable to determine the distance between a golf ball strike and a residence. In this case, I've actually walked the property. I believe you asked Mr. Kramer whether somebody walked the property and found golf balls. I have walked the property. I found golf balls right outside the lateral or out of bounds hazard, and I've found them probably about 4 or 5 feet in at best. I've never seen them the 20 feet in that the back of the house that we propose in our development would look like. I also noticed that some of the other people who were up here expressed that this would be a clear violation of their views. Well, if, as my attorney and counsel has put up multiple times, and I encourage anybody on this board to go take a look, and I encourage other people here to take a look, this development is completely obscured by not one but 2 strands of trees from Armstrong Road. 2 mature trees, none of which are impacted or affected, or nor are there any plans to thin them out accordingly. So those views that people are worried about conceding or having them impaired, that simply doesn't exist. It was also made clear that it was made mention that there'd be 20% of the largest homes in the neighborhood. We actually, and you heard from Mr. Tobia, our planning expert, that the current concentration of homes on Armstrong and other roads actually is a higher density if you take apples to apples than what we're proposing. And we understand there's a zoning change involved, and we admire, respect, and thank you for your time and patience and expertise in determining whether or not this is viable. One other thing I'd just like to make a mention of, 2 other things, is one, Mr. Williams asked us whether, at the last meeting, whether we'd be willing to declare ourselves a 55 and over community. We do agree to that, Mr. Williams. And we also agree, I'm going to commit myself to agree, that we intend, if we are approved, to manage the construction process with minimal, if any, disruption. Meaning we will work with the neighborhood. We're not rushing these to get them out the next month and starting construction at 6 in the morning. We will adhere to whatever reasonable schedule is set by this town, its professionals, the neighbors' input, etc. What we really want to do is build a place where myself, my wife, several of my friends, Mr. Riskin, who wasn't given the opportunity to discuss this, and several other people, one of whom couldn't be here tonight, but gave me a letter to read in, which I'm not going to do, but effectively said he's a professional, he's a partner at McKinsey, and he wants to move back to Morris Township. And he wants to buy a place like this. And, I think there is a dearth of these kinds of residences that attract people who exist today in the community, but don't need to live in 5 and 6 bedroom homes. They don't want to shovel their snow. They don't want to mow their lawns. They want an HOA, and an HOA, by the way, that will be well-funded, well-managed, and not subject to 2008, 2009 levels of foreclosure. So we think that this is a really healthy project for this township. And we believe that the objector's case, while very valid because everybody's entitled to their own opinions, we feel that this objector's case is really built on a provincialism that they don't want to have anything in their backyards except for what is currently a parking lot with overgrown vegetation. Last thing I'd like to say, and then I'll gladly remove myself, is at no point did my partner or I ever, ever offer any construction concession to an adjacent neighbor to build a driveway or to do anything else that would constitute anything close to a quid pro quo for their support for this. So I just want to establish that we are also quite ethical and remain intent upon remaining quite ethical. Thank you for your time.
I can give names.
Why are we taking comments from the meeting?
So we don't ask questions.
Okay.
Let them finish. Unless you have a question.
Julie Winter.
Do that.
Oh,
I'll do that.
yeah, he just left.
sorry.
He just
Is he
left.
still here?
Who?
Mr. Williams has a question for Mr. Lapper.
He walked out.
Okay, we'll keep,
Well,
we can
call him
catch
when he
up.
comes out and just tell him if there's a question.
We can catch up with that. In the meantime, we'll go here. I'm sorry, your name again?
Julie Winter.
And Ms. Winter, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
You are just,
210 Mount Kimball Ave.
thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I've lived on the golf course for 41 years and have observed the club battling new springs whenever trees fall naturally or been cut down on purpose. Trees drink a lot of water. I object to the dense development for the same reason that 81 acres known as Deer Haven and Jockey Hollow Hilltop Preserve were preserved. That being they and this project lies just above the headwaters of the Great Brook, one of the 5 principal streams to the Great Swamp watershed, a very environmentally sensitive area. I'm concerned about additional runoff and pollution. This is raw land. Why should any variance be given? It's not like we're dealing with a non-conforming house on a non-conforming parcel. We need our board to enforce and protect our land use laws. Oh, and my neighbor sent me, they couldn't be here tonight, but they sent an email. Can I read what they?
No, I'm sorry, but you can't.
They're not here to
Thank you.
be asked questions if there should be a question or what they say.
I didn't think they could be asked.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry, I understand you had.
Thank you, yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Lapper.
I just had a couple questions. You said it may be a 55 unit development, and therefore you and your friends are going to be there. So I'm guessing there's no small children.
I would love to tell you in an absolute that there would be no small children. We are happy to abide by a 55 and over sale, a legal sale process. That's something that should you choose to ask of us as an approval right, we would abide by. There are no, among the 4 or 5 current highly interested purchasers and myself who's committed to this, and again, I say this in front of my wife, so I'm gonna have to pay a price if I didn't. There will be no small children to the best of my knowledge in this community amongst the group that we know that would be living there permanently or regularly.
So there's 13 homes, and you mentioned about 4 or 5 were your friends already. So that the other 8 could possibly be other friends.
Potentially, sir, but again, we'd be more than happy to subject ourselves to a 55 and over, which usually skews pretty hard against seeing a lot of small children there. But I can't tell you in an absolute that someone in their 30s or 40s, if you did not impose a 55 and older requirement upon us, could show up with small children. I don't want to tell you, but I do know for a fact, and several of the people here have small children that play alongside the golf course currently.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?
No. Okay.
Thank you.
Is it all right if I speak from over here?
Is that on?
I don't think it's on.
My voice does tend to carry.
get the.
Why don't you just come over, why don't you just come over here, we'll just, we can go.
I got it. I think
Did you press, no, press the button.
the bottom, right?
It's on.
Now it's on.
It's on.
There's a microphone here.
How about now? There we go.
There you go.
My name is Robert Willett, Willette. I'm at 4 Carton Road.
I'm sorry, could you spell your last name again?
Sure, Willette.
At
4 Carton.
Carton?
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Willett, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
As someone who is, and agree with everybody else in this room who lives in Morris Township, particularly that area of Morris Township, I do also love the neighborhood that I live in. I've lived in it for 24 years. I am on the cusp of becoming an empty nester. Unfortunately, I do qualify for the 55 and over, so that won't be a limitation, but I am eager to stay in this area. I do not wish to disparage the friends that I have that live in the Springbrook townhouses, but for the opportunity to stay in the area in the type of, and again, from the renderings that I've seen and the type of housing that will be available, that is very attractive for not only me, but my friends who also live in the area and are on the cusp of becoming empty nesters. Thank you.
Carl Winter, 210 Mount Campbell Avenue.
Mr. Winter, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I object to this development based on the fact that it seems as if the developer, and even those that are saying that they want to move into this area, are trading on the currency of the Springbrook neighborhood, the Prudentown Historic District, and the flavor of the homes and the layout of the neighborhood. To come in, take, in one breath, we call it a single-family development of cluster homes. In the next breath, it's referred to as a condominium. So we're taking something that isn't in the area and trying to, I won't say force it in, but coerce it in around the zoning rules and bringing it into an area that type of housing doesn't exist. Again, as I said, the developer and the people wishing to live there are trading on the good currency of what that neighborhood is and the adjacent neighborhoods on Mount Campbell and the Prudentown Historic District. It's for the reasons of trying to create that density in an area where it doesn't exist. Overall, there may be a few houses in the area that approach that density, but it's completely out of keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. So for these reasons, I object to the development.
I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned, pardon me. You mentioned the Prudentown Historic District.
Yes.
And you talked that they were trying to trade on to take the mantle of areas adjacent to them. Is this in the Prudentown Historic District?
Prudentown Historic District is just across Mount Campbell, right?
So the boundary of the Prudentown District does not include this property, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if the township thought this was part of the historic district, or should be considered to be part of it, shouldn't we shift the boundaries of the historic district?
Yes, I'm just saying it's adjacent to the historic district. I live on Mount Campbell. I'm not in the Springbrook community itself. I live adjacent to it. But the houses along Mount Campbell and in the Prudentown district and in Springbrook, which are all adjacent to each other, you can freely walk from area to area. I guess I'm one of the foolish people that live on a golf course, but my backyard borders on the golf course. Had plenty of golf balls in my backyard over the years. Haven't been hit by one yet, but golf course and adjacent to the golf course aside, it's in the same general area.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members? Okay. Thank you.
I just want to point out something that Mr. Winters said, just to remind the board that a condominium is a form of ownership. It has nothing to do with what a structure looks like. Okay?
Mark
Yep.
Duran.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
So you got it.
And your name again?
Mark Haran, 9 Armstrong Road.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Haran.
And thank you all first for all the time and effort you put into this. I applaud your patience and your service. Like Larry said, I've been to a number of meetings, and you guys do a great job. I don't know how you do it, but thank you for your patience here. I don't have a lot to add more than what my neighbors have already said. All excellent points that I agree with 100%. I just want to go on record as saying that I object to this project. I object to it because of the appearance, the congestion it will cause, and the traffic that will result from it. I'm also a member at Springbrook. I've been there for 26 years. And I oppose the project for the very same reasons. I think we're jamming in too dense of a project into a very tight area. It's going to, I think the views, it's going to ruin the views. I think it's going to affect the play on the golf course. It's just not going to look good. There's going to be too much traffic. And I think it could be used for so many other reasons. And I asked the question, what is wrong with open space? Why does every inch have to be developed? Why can't it just be left? Why does everything have to be developed to make a profit for a builder? And I also, I'm also disappointed that the club sold this property without checking with the membership first or coming to the neighbors, many of which are members at the club and are here tonight and spoken. A small group made a decision to sell the property without checking in with anybody first, or we wouldn't have all been here. I love the neighborhood. I love driving down 202. It's still an old country road. And my concern is that if this project goes through, we're going down a slippery slope. That all of 202 will be developed. We've got property further down the road where the old hospital was. And it's eventually going to end up looking like Hanover Avenue, which in my opinion has been completely overdeveloped. It's just too much. This is a classic case of urban sprawl, which I do not want to see in my neighborhood. So thank you all for taking this into consideration, and I respectfully ask that you decline this application.
Hello, good evening. Irene Liakis, 1 Springbrook Road.
Ms. Liakis, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Would you spell your last name, please?
Liakas.
I'm sorry, and your address again?
1 Springbrook Road.
Thank you.
Sorry if I'm a little bit shaky. I'm not really a public speaker, but I do have 3 young children. And I do kind of want to piggyback what Mrs. Brown was expressing, the concern, and also the developer, where he mentioned that single family homes don't have a concern with their children. I live across the street from the country club, well, the golf course. There is always a concern with traffic. For me, my biggest concern is the density issue. I feel like many homes are being built in a small lot, and the best part of my day with my 3 young children, which are twins that are 5 and 1 that is 2, is taking a walk, going up the street, going to see the fire truck, and walking back home. I don't want to say that, plans should be made of, what I'm saying, what I do in my day, but it is a concern, especially with the congestion. I mean, we're talking about 13 homes where a lot of people order from Amazon. There's obviously garbage that's going to be collected. the snow, landscaping. We're talking about people that essentially, let's say there's 2 adults living in the house, you're gonna have 2 cars. I mean, I remember Mount Campbell being shut down for only an hour because of a gas leak, and I can't express to you that I have to actually wait in my driveway for 2 minutes to actually get out my driveway to pick up my children. Children are curious, but I'm really speaking as a concerned mother. I felt that it was important considering that other people have mentioned, and I do see that the project, well, they've announced now, I guess ages 55 and up. I mean, 55 and up, you're gonna have grandchildren. They're gonna come and visit you for the holidays or for the summer. I just ask for the board to just please think about the young families, think about the young children. I mean, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and I can't express to you how happy I was to live in this neighborhood. So I really appreciate your time. Just please think of us as, you know, as a unit where we just want things to be done correctly and safely. Thank you.
Gloria Karsten, 9 Spring Hill Lane. And I've lived in this area, in that house for 33 years.
Ms. Carson, would you raise your right hand, please? Thank you.
Left-handed, right?
You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And I'm sorry, now would you spell your last name for me?
Karsten. Gloria Karsten, 9 Spring Hill Lane.
Spring Hill, okay, thank you.
And as I said, I've lived in this neighborhood for 33 years. We've raised our children here. One of the reasons we moved here certainly was for the open spaces, which we've always enjoyed immensely. And I know I and many of our neighbors have been going to meetings about this specific proposal for over a year. I remember meetings back at the firehouse. It's been going on for a very long time. And I'm kind of a very simple person. I just basically ask myself the question, why has this been going on so long? It seems as if it's a very simple decision. The only person or entity that would benefit from this project being approved is the developer. All the other people in the Springbrook community will not only not benefit, but it will diminish our quality of life, our open spaces, increased traffic, all sorts of potential for kids getting involved in accidents. And I just am wondering why it's been such a complex decision to refute this proposal. So obviously I would object to this proposal. It almost seems like it would be a no-brainer. It would certainly diminish the quality of life in the neighborhood, diminish the open spaces, and just put too much crowding and congestion in an area that never has had it before, and there's no reason to change that. Thank you very much for listening.
Richard Wade, 46 Springbrook Road.
Mr. Wade, would you raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I will not reiterate all the comments of tonight, except that this application is nothing more than greed. It's all this is greed. Greed on behalf of Springbrook Country Club, greed on behalf of the developer. This neighborhood is exceptional. It is the neighborhood, in my opinion, in Morris Township. I've lived in the township for some 40 years, Center Avenue area for around 15 years. I've lived in the other side of town, off of Spring Valley, and I've lived in Springbrook for some 18 years. It is, in my opinion, the neighborhood. And any encroachment on it is not acceptable. This is greed, greed, greed. And I wish the board to consider that. If the developer was so anxious to move into this neighborhood, he would have made some effort to deal with the appropriate individuals who have fought this for over a year. He said tonight that he has some friends, he wants to buy this, he wants to build this, he wants to bring his friends in. 3 or 4 homes. No, he wants to build 13. We wanted to build carriage homes. These are not carriage homes. We wanted to put signs on each end of the street. Why? Nobody asked for it, nobody wants it. We spent 45 minutes plus on one meeting with an architect, wowing the crowd of what he was going to do. Only to find out that was a pipe dream. None of that was going to be what he was going to build here. This is nothing more than a K-hop type development to make money. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maggie Sellers, and I live at 42 Springbrook Road.
Just keep your voice up.
Maggie Sellers, 42 Springbrook Road.
Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, as I said, longtime resident, I'm one of the new ones in Springbrook. I've been there almost 21 years. I love my neighborhood. I'm also a realtor in this town for almost 30 years with Deborah. We've worked together on a lot of transactions. This project that they're proposing at the beginning of our beautiful neighborhood does not fit in with the scale of the other homes and the properties in the neighborhood. I don't want to reiterate, I completely agree with everything else that all my other neighbors have said, so I don't want to be redundant and take up your time. But a couple things that I don't think were mentioned that I want to mention is the traffic. I mean, Springbrook Road is already a raceway in the morning for people cutting down, like from Mount Kimball to get down to 287 to get to Compensation train station. This is going to add a lot more traffic in that. I'm not a traffic expert, but I think it's obvious people are going to go to work. They have to get to the highway. They're going to cut down Springbrook Road or to get to the train of 287. So that's going to be an added thing. I don't have children. I have a small dog. But I see the kids out playing, and it's very scary when you see these cars racing down as it is now, and this is only going to increase that car activity. Someone mentioned about the golf balls and were people on Armstrong concerned or seeing golf balls in the neighborhood. 3 Armstrong was recently on the market. I showed it to a couple of different clients. That house is on an almost half acre, 0.49 acres. Both times I was there were golf balls in the middle of the backyard. Just for the record. So the golf balls absolutely fly and hit those houses in the yards over there. I found it curious that the applicant represented that he wanted to be the very best neighbor when I was approached along with a couple other neighbors in the parking lot after one of the last meetings and was told, and I'll paraphrase, but if this project wasn't approved, that they were just going to put in low-income housing. So it was sort of a veiled threat, which I didn't appreciate, neither did my neighbors that worked with me when we were approached with that. So I don't call that a very nice neighbor. I have a copy of the original Springbrook Estate sales brochure. This is why we love our neighborhood. If I may, I just want to read a couple of excerpts from it. In 1938, this was put together. Many fine
Ms.
homes-
Sellers, do you have a copy that you're presenting to the board?
I can give you this. I only have one copy here. Am I able to just read a couple of quotes from it?
Can we just mark it as an exhibit?
Sure.
Okay, why don't you read it and then we'll mark it, okay?
Sure, of course. Many fine homes erected here during the past 10 years. So this brochure was put out in 1938. My home is in this brochure. One of the quotes, families have selected Springbrook Estate as the location of their homes, secure in the knowledge that here they can enjoy peace and contentment among neighbors who respect the property, privacy, and social desires of those who live nearby. And then another page. Each home was designed to form a distinctive and yet integral part of this carefully restricted community. Each has its own particular touch to enrich the general pattern and still embodies all the utilitarian features with the machine age and provided for human comfort. This just says this neighborhood was built with beauty, and that's why we all love it. And we've all been there for a long time. I don't plan to leave this house feet first. So I'm only there almost 21 years, and I'm one of the new ones. So I implore this board, please don't let this cluster community be put into the beginning of our neighborhood. As a realtor, I can tell you, I love showing homes in the neighborhood, driving in that way. It's a beautiful entryway. If they have to come in and look at this Dick Wade pointed out, K-hop type homes, it's just gonna diminish the beauty of the entrance, the main entrance to our neighborhood. These homes are not in scale with the homes that are in our neighborhood now. So I implore you, please don't let this go further. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sellers, would you just hand that up to Sonia here, please? We're going to mark that 06, right? Okay.
As what?
Yes.
06?
Be careful.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
I think we're good. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your name, please?
My name is Catherine Liakis, Liakas. And I'll be really brief.
Your address, please?
I am at 9 Independence Court, Morristown, New Jersey.
Okay.
Okay, my biggest
Is-
concern
is-
really is public safety.
Since she's out of town, I mean,
She
I'm
lives
No.
No, she lives in town.
Independence.
Independence is in the town.
I thought she said Morristown.
Or do you agree?
No.
No, it's a Morristown mailing address, it's Morris Township.
Yeah.
I'll be really quick. It's really, to me, all about the public safety. There are no sidewalks on Springbrook Road, on Armstrong, on Alvord, and the neighborhood is filled with all different age groups. I mean, sometimes you'll see in the morning, mothers with strollers, several times up and down the neighborhood. You see in the evenings, the older couples walking for their exercise. There's always joggers. There's teenagers in the winter that ice skate on the pond or play hockey. A lot of the children after school ride bikes. Of course, we're concerned about automobile accidents, but even more, I'm concerned about fatalities, human fatalities. And I'm very much afraid of that. That's a real possibility. We're talking about a lot of homes in a small area, on country roads. And I implore the board, please, I hope and pray that you're listening to me as a mother and a grandmother, that you have the power to say no to this. There are other places for it. This just isn't the place, So that's really all I have to say. I hope that you really think long and hard about this, because it's a public safety disaster, and I feel like it's really irresponsible, and I hope that you consider what I'm saying here tonight. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Vincent Avalon.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And would you spell your last name, please?
Avallone,
And your address?
10 Armstrong Road.
Thank you.
I appreciate that you're all giving a lot of time to this, giving a lot of consideration to it. I've been watching a lot, sometimes from here and sometimes on Zoom. Last 2 hours, I actually have been watching on Zoom until I was able to finish the work that I had to do for the day and decided that it would be appropriate for me to come over since this is my only opportunity to speak to you. And it's what struck me is that from the beginning of this project until now, we've seen it change. And it's changed purportedly to address safety issues. Safety issues that would have been evident to any developer at the start of the development. And it caused me to question, why is it that you all and we had to point out to the developer these safety issues? And I think it's because they weren't really thinking of them as the paramount issue. I think that what they were thinking of was how much money the development would make for them. So we all have had to come to you to identify the safety issues. And you have done an excellent job of listening to everyone and addressing those safety issues. And they've come back and presented different proposals. Now, I can't see into the future, and I would gather that neither can any of you. And I know none of the people here can see into the future either. But what we can all see, I think, is another safety problem that we have not yet spoken about tonight or in the many meetings that you've had before tonight. And because of that, because of all the safety issues that you've already had to address, do you feel comfortable that you have considered them all? I don't. I don't feel comfortable that we've considered them all, and I can guarantee you the developer has not considered them all either. And I'm just going to point to one very easy one that you've heard many people talk about, and I've heard all their comments, and I agree with them. And the one that's the most obvious is a golf ball. A golf ball going into a backyard that is very close to the edge of the fairway. If you've walked the hole that this is on, you'll see that the tee box faces right at the property that they're looking to develop. And it doesn't, I don't have to tell you, I do golf. I'm a right-handed golfer. The majority of golfers are right-handed golfers. And we all have terrible slices. I slice the ball. Not as much as I once did, but I still slice the ball. Pro golfers still slice the ball. If you watched the President's Cup this weekend, you saw many slices, unintentional by professional golfers. They went far beyond the few feet between the golf course and the backyards of these homes that's being proposed. Why is that? Because they're trying to cram 13 homes into a small space. What I heard was that one of the prime developers, principals, would like to live there. I would welcome that. I think that would be wonderful if someone would come and develop in a very appropriate way a home. 2 homes. He said he has him and 4 friends. They can build 3, 4, 5 homes and not 13. And that would alleviate a significant safety issue that's all staring us all right in the face. I object to this plan for a variety of reasons, safety being the chief one. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Yes.
Pat Durbin.
Mr. Durbin, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And spell your last name, please?
D-U-R-B-I-N.
And your address?
I live in Randolph, but I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of Springbrook.
Okay.
So I'm a relative newcomer to this discussion, first meeting I've attended. I've listened to a lot of the commentary and certainly respect the perspectives of the neighbors. Obviously, anything that affects your home and the area you live in is going to be an important issue. Coming from the perspective of the club, I'm a member there for 15 years, and I think its setting in the neighborhood is one of the unique aspects of the club, certainly something that I think all the members feel very proud of in terms of the character of the club. As it's been noted, it is surrounded by homes around the golf course, some pre-existing, many pre-existing, some, much nicer, newer, some, older and perhaps, a bit more tired looking. Certainly, as a member of the club, I believe, this, property development would not interfere with the overall aesthetic of the course. I'm not in a position to sort of comment on the various zoning issues that are at play, but the club has signed a contract with the developer to sell the land. Certainly the club is in favor of the sale of the land, obviously subject to the requisites.
I'm sorry, members of the public, he's entitled to speak. You cannot interrupt him. You cannot make comments while he speaks. Nobody interrupted you. Let him speak.
So the club is a private club that's operated by the Board of Trustees. I wasn't a member of the Board of Trustees when the club agreed to sell the land, but the club has agreed to sell the land. It was not subject to a vote of the membership at large, but that's the reality of the situation we're in. So as a member of the Board of Trustees, a member of the club, I'm in favor of the land sale and this development, sorry.
Can I ask a question? Have you reviewed the specific plan for the development?
I've seen the renderings of it. I'm not, in terms of the, specific layout of the homes in the area and the various, density issues. I will say, I live in a neighborhood in Randolph that had a bunch of single-family homes. There was some undeveloped land. We had a townhome community put in that many of the residents were not in favor of. It's, I think, a hazard of property ownership in the United States, and people have to make those decisions, but people are entitled to do what they want with their land. So various.
So you've only seen the renderings of the housing, but not the specific layout of the street or where the location of the houses are. Is that correct?
I know generally where they will be in relation to the golf course, and I've heard the commentary about the issue with golf balls. There's plenty of homes that are in easy striking distance from the golf course, if that's the primary consideration, beyond this development.
Any other questions from board members?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to put up netting or some sort of preventative measures from the golf balls going into the properties?
I mean, I would always subject to the club, I suppose, and other considerations, but personally, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think there's, natural structures, trees, and fencing that could certainly provide, some reasonable barrier. And, depending on exactly where they are, it'd have to be either, in my opinion, way right or, a very long hitter with a wild shot that would be a problem.
Could we make that a condition of the?
Yes. I don't know if we can make it a condition, if it's on Springbrook property, we can make it so that
Okay.
the developer would have to agree with the country club to take safety measures. I don't know how we would judge that.
And then how would you address all the other houses on the golf course?
I know, but we've got these here as opposed to everybody else. We just have to deal with this one.
The price when you pay when you live on a golf course.
We
All
have,
over the country.
That's right, every single
All over
course
the
in the country.
Well, do we need to further discuss and clarify what we're actually asking them to do or discuss in terms of any fencing or netting?
we'd have to discuss that with the applicant.
Yeah, I have a list of conditions, a pretty long list. If there were an approval that, would be for the board to consider. That's just another one.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Vitello, any questions?
I do not.
Mr. Mullin? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I just correct the statement made?
You've already testified once. You said you want to correct something you said?
Not that I said, there was a statement that was made under oath that was not true.
No, well, we're not going there to say that somebody's lying.
I'm not saying it's lying, I'm just saying it's not true. And I would also move to strike that testimony based on the statement.
You can't, whose testimony you want? He's an interested party.
I'm just making the motion and
It's denied.
deny.
What opportunity does the public have to respond to an incorrect statement?
The representation was made that.
Okay.
Wait, how long is he going to be allowed to conduct business in this room? He is just a resident and he is taking over like he's the applicant's or the attorney on the other side. It's inappropriate and he should shut his trap because it's getting out of control.
Frank, he's got a right to come up and point something out if he thinks that there was an incorrect statement made.
Okay.
For the record, again, your name?
Nicholas Liakis, 1
Mr. Liakis, I'll remind you that you're under oath.
Absolutely. So the statement was made that this had the support of the membership. That is not. I believe this is on.
Charlie off.
Press the bottom.
Yeah,
At
the bottom, right?
The bottom.
I object to this gentleman's continuing appearance at the podium. He's had his allotted time to speak, and this is not a debate.
Okay. I understand.
I'd just like to correct a statement that was made by the gentleman with regards to the support of the membership for this application. That is not correct. simply stated. I don't believe the membership was polled in any sort of
So,
fashion.
Mr. Liakis, are you a member?
I'm a member and a resident, yes.
remember that?
Yes.
You remember when we signed the contract?
Just a second. When- when-
Sean, you can't ask questions.
Well, when was this contract signed?
How long have you been a member?
Since, well, actually, I grew up as a member. My father was the member. I was still technically a member, but I wasn't the primary member. Does that count?
How long have you been a primary member?
4 years?
Okay. And your statement is that the members were not polled,
Correct.
and I think you said that was what was stated.
I was just correcting that for the record. It's
But
a
that wasn't
statement.
a statement. You didn't say the members were polled.
No, he said the membership supported this.
You said that the board of trustees made the decision to sell the property.
Yeah, and he specifically said that it didn't go to the membership.
Okay, then I stand corrected. I thought I heard the membership
Okay,
was put in there.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Any other members of the public who have not spoken who wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for telling Mr. Liakis to shut his trap. That was not appropriate, so
Okay.
I apologize. Sorry, Mr. Liakis.
Okay, any other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, how do we proceed on this?
Just close the public.
Let's close the public portion. Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Mr. Mullen, you wish to speak?
Just very briefly, very briefly. Like everyone else, thank you for your time and your effort and your patience. Thank you for the vision that you hold very true in terms of what Morris Township is and what it can be. With respect, this development, as many people have pointed out, Morris Township is not ready for it yet. It's not within the contemplation of the master plan as the master plan currently exists. It might change over time. There might be a change in terms of the political will of people, but right now, that change is not there. And Morris Township offers everyone different choices. I live on Woodcrest, so I live in a townhouse right down the street from all these people. I made choices because Morris Township offered those legal choices. We're not ready for this. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to get something like this right. And so when your public says, hold off, wait, density, 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 work with them. That's all that these people are really asking. They're not attacking these developers. Developers are allowed to make money and develop things. But this township isn't ready for this sort of development right now. And I don't think the truth is, I'm brand new to this matter, all of like a half a day, but I don't think that the master plan supports it. Maybe over time, there'll be something, but not right now. So I urge caution. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Please.
now's a good time for a break.
Yeah,
Take a 5-minute break and then we'll be back.
thank you.
I want to divide it. It was that half a slate.
The application was the Board of Adjustment special meeting for September 30th, 2024. Ms. Santiago, roll call.
Mr. Goldberg,
Here.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Schuster,
Here.
Mr. Benoit,
Here.
Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Woodford,
Here.
Mr. Roller,
Here.
Mr. Hanson,
Here.
Mr. Fishinger,
Here.
Mr. Phillips,
Here.
and I, Sonia Santiago, here.
Okay. So, I guess we're up to the applicant's closing. Is that correct, Mr. Rowland?
Unless our board professionals have anything to add before we get there.
Mr. Phillips, anything to add? No, I do not. Mr. Hanson? Okay. Mr. Patel?
Okay. So this is my closing statement. Like everybody else, I thank the board and the professionals. I do want to particularly point out that this is a special meeting, and I know boards are these days oftentimes resistant to special meetings, and I do, as a personal matter, as a member of the bar, appreciate you all granting us this special meeting, and also special meetings in the past, so thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the participation and involvement by the public in this case. Some of the modifications to our plan were a result of comments from the public, both during the public meetings and in informal discussions outside. Of course, board, the bulk of the changes to our plans occurred in response to concerns that you raised. And you heard a lot of this from Mr. Lapper, but I'm going to just quickly reiterate. The density of this project shrunk from 16 to 13. We created a cul-de-sac to accommodate emergency vehicles and better vehicular flow. We extended the sidewalks on both sides of the road to connect the areas in front of all the homes. We oriented the garages to the side so that none of them face the roadway. We created additional guest parking spaces and a place for landscapers and other service providers to park. We agreed to limit the occupancy of this project to 55 and over, and we agreed to do that. So we're going to do that. We've agreed as part of a developer's agreement for this project to erect signs at the entrance to Springbrook, and we've also agreed to make a voluntary contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We're doing that because there is no affordable housing with the project, and we feel like it's important to make a contribution to the trust fund. That will be in a developer's agreement. That's not anything that's in this resolution. That goes into an agreement after the project's done, and it's completely voluntary. We agreed to also, oh, I already mentioned that, I'm sorry. Let me just say a few words about tonight. I've been doing this a long time, and there are strong passions in this room. There are strong passions on both sides. And I think it's great that people are passionate about their homes, their neighborhoods, and protecting what they believe their interests are. And I also believe it's great that there are builders, developers, and others looking to make beautiful projects or make new residences to welcome people to a great town, which Morris Township is a great town. However, and as this board knows, you cannot base your decision on passion. You have to base your decision on the law. And in this case, the municipal land use law, and all of the testimony and the evidence that was put into the record over 5 hearings, and now this is the 6th, I believe, hearing in this case. That is what the board is guided by, and the proofs that were put on. You heard from the planner this evening for the objectors on several fronts, really no real grounds for why he thinks this plan is deficient, other than his experience. I mean, there's been no studies, no evidence, no real digging into the merits of the plan, and we understand that. I mean, that's what you do when you're objecting to a project. You hire a planner, other experts to come up with any reason you could think of. I mean, it's like spaghetti against the wall, and you hope that some of it will stick. Well, I hope I proved this evening that none of the spaghetti that he threw against the wall stuck, and the same with the stormwater expert. With respect to the legal proofs that we did put on in this case, our planner took you through the positive and negative criteria, and he showed that the positive criteria far outweighed any negative impacts from this project. A few highlights. I know you guys, we just did this, so I'm not going to go in gruesome detail. Single-family residential is permitted in this zone. Although the type of development we're proposing here is not permitted, Make no mistake, when this project is completed, there will be 13 single-family homes. Single-family homes ring this golf course. As I showed Mr. Pesolano up on the screen before, single-family homes can be found on nearly every edge of the course because being on a golf course is an extremely desirable place to live. And as you heard from 99% of those who spoke this evening, they like being in and around the golf course. The traffic impact from this project is minimal, and you heard that from our traffic expert. Now that we are limiting the project to 55 and older, the number of school children will be far below the 8 that we projected had this been a non-age restricted development. There is zero evidence in the record that public safety will be imperiled by this application. There is zero evidence in the record that children's lives will be endangered by this project. This will be a highly landscaped and beautiful property. We are adding 198 trees, 185 shrubs, 220 perennials and grasses. And wherever possible, as you heard from Mr. Schomer, we are keeping the larger, older trees on the site. The demand for this type of product is high. And as you heard, we already have a few buyers who are very interested in the property. There was some irony this evening when I heard from certain residents, for example, who were welcomed from Brooklyn, but that these same residents shouted down a gentleman who lived in Morris Township for 25 years and has contributed in his career greatly to Morristown and Morris Township. He would like to come home and move into one of these homes. He was shouted down by someone who was welcomed into this community from somewhere far away from Morris Township.
Excuse me, no comments.
Regarding open space, I understand, and we understand and appreciate Mr. McAlpin's concerns regarding the loss of open space in Morris Township. He's been very consistent on the issue. I've seen him on my other applications, and I get it. He wants to protect open space. This is not open space. I'm going to say that again. This is not open space. This is part of an operating golf course that's been used as a practice green and a staging area for trucks. It is not a meadow. It is not a beautiful, grassy, tree-lined area that's enjoyed by many, picnicking and enjoying the landscape. This is part of a golf course that will be subdivided. So it is a golf course. It is not open space. And so all of this you've heard tonight on this project about open space is simply not true. There are plenty of places in Morris Township that have open space and that I will agree with these residents and others should be protected. This is not one of those parcels. There has been, and will be in the future, developers looking to clear large tracts of land in Morris Township to develop high-density housing, particularly next year, but not here, not with this project. We are not looking to develop high-density housing. The proposals for this property that came before were much larger and much more dense than 13 single-family homes. And as we move on, ladies and gentlemen, the demand for new apartments and affordable housing is going to continue to grow as will proposals for such product on properties just like this one. Audacious, excessive, radical, unconscionable, improper. No, these are not terms used to describe our current presidential candidates. These were words used by the objector's planner to describe this project. There's an old saying that we lawyers use. If you have the facts on your side, you pound the facts. If you have the law on your side, you pound the law. If you have neither the facts nor the law, you pound the table. For purposes of this case, I would revise the final part to be, if you have neither the facts nor the law, you use a lot of adjectives. I am sure if you look hard enough, ladies and gentlemen, there are land use applications out there that could be characterized as radical or unconscionable. Some of the mega warehouse projects proposed in South Jersey, just feet from residential areas, come to mind. Those are radical and unconscionable. This project, 13 single-family homes on a golf course, designated 55 and over, is reasonable, appropriate for the neighborhood, and will meet a growing need for empty nesters who want to stay in the area but want a lower maintenance lifestyle. That's it. That's what's being proposed here. Not multi-family housing. Frankly, it's offensive for an expert to come here and say to this board that what's being proposed here is multifamily. We can all get on our bikes or get in a car and drive a mile into Morristown and see multifamily housing. It is the 4-story, 3-story, 6-story, 7-story buildings located in and around the green and elsewhere. That's multifamily housing. To try and sell a narrative that this is going to be a multifamily development is disingenuous, ladies and gentlemen. That's absolutely not what's being proposed here. 13 single-family homes. I appreciate your time. I, again, emphasize that your decision is based on the record, the testimony, the proofs. You have to weigh those proofs against other evidence you heard from the other side, and you come to a decision. You are a zoning board of adjustment. For those who say you're here only to protect the zoning laws at all costs, you're here to grant variances when appropriate. That's the job of the zoning board, not to defend at all costs and all time and manner all zoning regulations. That is not the job of a zoning board. So we trust your judgment based on the record that you will come to the right decision and approve this project. I thank you, and we thank you for the time that you've spent on this.
Thank you. Mr. Oler, so we go over the conditions.
So, Mr. Chairman, over the span of the 5 or 6 hearings, there were several items discussed as things came up, and I did take some good notes about it, and have about 34 proposed conditions if the board were to vote in favor of the application. And in no particular order, they are this. The project will be age restricted, and again, that's up for board discussion, but project would be age restricted with head of household being at least 55 years of age. There shall be no project name sign. Each unit shall have a maximum of 4 bedrooms. The proposed new road labeled A on the plan shall be a private road. All roadways and interior infrastructure, including but not limited to the stormwater management system, shall be maintained by the association. The association shall maintain all landscape buffers and replace any landscape buffers which die. The association shall be responsible for trash and recycling collection. The location of all fire hydrants on site shall be agreed upon between the Southeast Morris County Municipal Utility Authority and the Township Engineering Department. The applicant shall install a fire hydrant on the fire department site, subject to the approval of the Morris Township Fire Chief and the Southeast Morris County MUA. The applicant shall satisfy all requirements stated in the letter from the Southeast MUA dated May 23, 2024. The applicant shall use a different color paver for the 4 feet of paver area at the rear of all visitor parking spaces to identify the sidewalk area wherever a sidewalk crosses the rear of a visitor parking space. The applicant shall use pervious pavers at each of the guest parking spaces and the truck pull-off area. The applicant shall comply with all stormwater regulations as set forth in the stormwater management report submitted by the applicant and as required by the township engineer. Soil permeability test results will be approved by the township engineer. There shall be no common trash collection area. Individual homes shall be provided with trash and recycling containers that shall be allowed to be put out the evening before the scheduled pickup day and required to be placed back inside the respective garages by the end of day on the pickup day. Trash and recycling shall be by private hauler. No sidewalk, and actually, Dave, make a note about the trash issue because I'm not sure that the town does that anyplace else. So it's up for some discussion.
Yeah.
No sidewalk shall be installed along Springbrook Road. In lieu of installing the sidewalk along Springbrook Road, the applicant shall make a contribution to the township in the amount as calculated by the township engineer pursuant to ordinance. The applicant shall comply with the township engineer's letter dated July 18, 2024 regarding site distances. The township engineer shall, at his sole discretion, relocate the decorative fence and any landscaping along Springbrook Road in order to improve site distance from the proposed new road. The applicant shall extend the public water main from Mount Kemble Avenue to the existing Springbrook Road water main, subject to the approval of the township engineer and the Southeast Morris County MUA. There shall be no additional accessory buildings, fences, or walls permitted on the property other than those shown on the approved plans. So, for example, no fencing between homes. The applicant shall install a welcome to Springbrook sign. And again, obviously, that's up for discussion with the board. The design and location of the sign shall be reviewed by the TCC and approved by the Township Engineering Department prior to the issuance of the construction permit for its installation. The association shall be responsible for maintaining the sign, and that obligation shall be set forth in the project's master deed. The master deed and the bylaws for the project shall be reviewed by the Zoning Board of Adjustment Attorney. The applicant shall enter into a developer's agreement with the Township of Morris prior to the issuance of any building permit. The applicant shall present the remedial action plan from an LSRP to address the presence of pesticides in the soil per NJDEP remediation procedures and officially confirm with the Township Engineering Department when the property is remediated to a residential standard. The footprint of each building shall be fixed pursuant to the last revised plan and may not be altered without board approval. All site lighting shall be dark sky compliant. The applicant shall provide Title 39 authority to the township prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy. Visitor parking spaces shall not be used for snow removal storage. Applicant shall provide a monetary contribution for additional replacement trees not otherwise provided by the applicant in accordance with the township's ordinance. The applicant shall comply with the Environmental Commission's report regarding its recommended plant list, i.e., comply with the do not plant list. The applicant shall not remove any evergreen trees along the property line shared with the golf course. No floodlights shall be mounted to the exterior of any dwelling, and this restriction shall be included within the master deed. The applicant shall comply with the tree removal and replacement requirements pursuant to Chapter 57 of the township's land development ordinance. The applicant shall comply with the township's residential development fee ordinance in terms of the required affordable housing contribution. The applicant shall enter into a developer's agreement with the township prior to the issuance of any construction permits. And as we discussed tonight, the possibility of a condition that installed netting along the property line between the development and the golf course for the purpose of blocking stray golf balls from entering the development. And that was it.
Mr. Patella, any comments on the conditions?
Yeah, there was a condition on the netting.
Right.
I think we need to look at that to consider whether that's feasible or, if it's been done anywhere else. For example, in Springbrook. It's up to the board, of course. I mean, if the board thinks that that's I think our client would say that that's probably not the best option for this. I mean, the HOA could have always installed netting at a later date should balls flying into their property become an issue, as any property owner, could do or approach the golf course to do that. But making that decision just on, I don't know who said it or when, but.
I said it, Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think maybe it's something that, if it's a problem down the road,
Okay.
it just came to mind as the gentleman was speaking, but I'm fine not putting it at this point.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question, Mr. Aller. You had referenced
Yes.
2 developer agreements in that list.
Well, there would be one developer's agreement.
One developer agreement, but it was referenced twice as you.
Maybe,
okay. I didn't know.
These are in no particular
Oh, okay,
order, and
gotcha,
if
all
the
right.
board grants the approval, they'll be a little bit more organized.
Okay.
This is just going through my notes as we were putting it together.
And I know Mr. Vitolo had mentioned earlier that the contribution to the affordable housing trust fund was voluntary and not part of what we're deciding on here tonight.
So-
Is that the developer's
So
agreement you're
that's,
referring to? or-
no, in the developer's agreement, there'd be a contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund per ordinance in the town. And that's some percentage of the assessed value of the homes, right? They're talking about a voluntary contribution in addition to that.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying.
Board professionals, do you have any other conditions that you recall?
No, going to the garbage hauler, I know of no other townhouse.
Yeah, that's my that's my recollection also. I think the town actually provides trash removal at every condo complex in town, right?
Yeah.
So I don't
We
think
don't
this one should be
snowplow.
different.
But
Right,
we do pick up.
right. But snow plowing subject to the Kelly bill, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
right.
Okay. Anything else before we start deliberating?
I don't
Mr.
think
Patel,
so.
anything else? Mr. Muller, do you have any conditions that were not enunciated?
Thanks for asking, but no.
I do have one question for our board professionals, if that's okay.
Sure.
Mr. Phillips, I know the objector's attorney had mentioned that the master plan. Could you just speak to what he had mentioned earlier about the master plan, not this particular, I know we covered it in a prior session, but just to high level overview to address his comments on the master plan, and that maybe one day, we could contemplate it or change it or with the next re-examination, but just in the current state of the master plan and how this may be viewed.
Yeah, so the master plan, as you know, Mr. Goldberg, has a variety of different sections, including goals and objectives, and I think some of those were cited by the applicant's planner in support of the application. With regard to the actual kind of land use designation of this property in the land use element, this property, since it is part of and owned by the golf course, is part of that OSGU zone designation, which is one of the reasons why I had asked the applicant's planner in terms of the proof requirements, and specifically under the Medici case, to reconcile the fact that, should the board feel like it would grant this variance, how do you reconcile the fact that it's not? And there's things such as changed circumstances, and so forth, which the applicant's planner addressed. Whether or not you feel that the applicant's planner addressed that satisfactorily, you'll have to decide that. But for that very reason, I had pressed the applicant's planner on that issue, because technically this is part of the OSGU and it's only intended for a variety of open space and golf course and related uses.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mr. Owen, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not. I just do want to point out to the board that there's, I believe, 3 D variances, right? We have 2 D1s and a D5. We have a D1 because we have more than one principal structure on a single lot. We have a D1 because the proposal is a cluster, which is not permitted in the OSGU. And we have a D5 for the density.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we agreed that any other setback that's
Yeah, I think
variance is required would be subsumed into the cluster D1.
correct.
Yes, correct.
Do you agree, Paul? All
Yeah,
the Cs?
it would all- I mean,
Yeah, and
should the board feel that the applicant is satisfied the D1 and the D5, then I think that, consistent with that, any of the related bulk variance really would be subsumed within the D variances.
Okay. Any question on that from any board members?
And that means that you're giving a consideration at the same time that you're voting on the D, because the OSGU bulk requirements wouldn't necessarily apply to this type of development. That's why they're subsumed into the use variance.
Okay. So board members, be interested in hearing what you have to say. For my part, I think we've gone through what the OSGU zone permits, includes parkland, playing fields, playgrounds, open spaces, reservoirs, country clubs in existence prior to January 1st, 94, colleges and other types of recreation, government offices, first aid and emergency squads, firehouse, libraries, but not garages, storage yards, and solid waste facilities.
Mr. Chairman, it also permits single-family homes
I
under
was
the
gonna get to
R130.
that. The zone permits single-family homes complying with the RA 30 bulk zone bulk variance requirements. That's
Yes.
essentially 3-acre lots.
Right.
Proposal would have density of approximately 1 unit for every 15,800 square feet, but that density includes the roadway. I don't think we separated it out. The zone also permits several accessory uses and conditional uses not at issue here. As was pointed out, it would need 2 D1 variances and 1 D5 variance. Since single-family homes are allowed in the area, the applicant states that the D5 density variance would need to be governed by the burden of proof set forth in the NJSA 4055-2 and not the enhanced standard set forth in the Medici case. And as far as the D5 density is concerned, it's a question of whether the special reasons promoted, which promote the general purposes of the municipal land use law is met, and there is no detriment to the neighborhood or to the purposes of the zoning. And the goals that were stated by the applicant's professional planner include the use and goal A, the use and development of land to promote the health and safety and welfare of the community. And the appropriate use would be in keeping with the residential character of the area. It's all single-family homes, and this would continue that. He also cited goal C, provide adequate air, light, and open space, with the development being adjacent to a golf course, and with the density approaching that of a DRA 15 zone requirements, the dominant residential zoning in the surrounding area, that requirement is met. Promote and establish appropriate population densities. That would be the same rationale as I just said. Goal G, provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of residential uses. And that goes to the clustering that is at issue here, but it is also taking into account the density as being approximate to that of an RA 15 zone. Also, the goal I, promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and a good civic design and arrangement. And the applicant has presented unrebutted evidence that the design is in conformance with the building design ordinance of this municipality. And goal N, promote the efficient use of land. Present land is vacant and used intermittently for commercial parking. Placing of one RA 130 lot or two slightly undersized lot for the RA 130 zone would not be efficient use of this land, and the application makes much more sense. The application's configuration has been approved by the fire department, modified to get that approval, and the development, as approved by the public utility, would enhance delivery of water not only to this area but also to the Springbrook neighborhood, because it would have 2 points of entrance into that neighborhood. As to the negative criteria, there be no detriment to the public good and no substantial impairment of the zoning plan. The proposed development is, I think the testimony was approximately 700 feet from the closest houses in the Springbrook neighborhood. And the two homes on Mount Kimball Avenue are 100 feet and 160 feet from the nearest house, in contrast to the 25-foot rear setback of an RA 15 zone. So it would be further away from adjacent properties than would be allowable in an RA 15 zone. The applicant also made several references, the professional planner, to the town's master plan. And one of the items that was emphasized, that the population of the township is aging. Don't have to look much further. And there would be maybe a interest in township residents or others seeking to live in the township of housing such as a townhomes or apartment living or one of single-family detached houses, smaller single-family detached houses. And I think this is a novel way of approaching that, and it is in keeping with that goal of the master plan. They also stated that the master plan states that although the planning board anticipates that the township will remain a predominantly single-family detached zone community, it must still be cognizant of those changing housing preferences. As such, it should look for opportunities to promote diversity in the township's housing stock where appropriate. And from my having listened to all the evidence, carefully listened to it, asked questions, listened to the public, I think it does promote this, does provide this opportunity to promote diversity in the housing stock of the township. And therefore, I think I would be in favor of this application. I know that there's concerns about safety. I know there's concerns about cars speeding down Springbrook Road to get to 287. That is something, all the traffic experts agree, this will not have any substantial impact on the amount of volume of traffic entering and leaving Springbrook Road. There's been no rebuttal of that testimony. And so the method of resolving that speeding is to contact the police department and have to put the dummy car out there a few days and then put the real car out there and stop a bunch of people. And that can be done. It's done in our neighborhood. There's one right around the corner from me that's out there fairly often. But I'd be interested in hearing what other people have to say about this application. Especially Mr. Benoit, who's on the planning board. And what his opinion is as far as how this complies with the master plan.
I think you did an excellent job. We're kind of placed into this situation because the golf course decided to sell the property. They didn't leave it, they decided not to leave it park-like or make it park-like. A lot of people want to have like a nice empty area, and it kind of was that way, not really, but the decision to sell the course, this section of the course, this land, is an invitation for construction. So we can't be disillusioned or surprised that an application for construction is before us. A lot of people talk about we want to preserve the neighborhood. And I think every generation wants to preserve the neighborhood. But you live next to a vacant lot, and next thing you know, someone develops it. I mean, somebody passed out this brochure from 1923. A developer is developing this lot, this land, to make money. That's what developers do, and people bought the homes to make money. And after that, they don't want any change. So everyone comes to the township, I love the township, but I don't want any change. I think change is inevitable, and I think it's important to look at where would I be living if people came out and protested against my development and they won? Where would I be living if people objected to the development that I live in? And that's always something I think about when I listen to people who have very real concerns. And I want to thank everyone for coming, because you've been following this for a year or more. As Mr. Vitello said, there's a lot of passion in the room, and it's understood. We as a board can't control the applications that come before us. We can't say, we don't want to see that application. We have to deal with what applications we receive. And as Mr. Aller pointed out, and Mr. Vitello pointed out, there have been a lot of changes to this application, and it's because of the input from the general public, from the neighborhood. And I personally always appreciate the input, because you live there and you know what's going on much more so than I do. But in terms of the law, the master plan, in terms of what we're allowed to look at and what we can decide upon, I think Mr. Woodford just did a great job of elaborating on all those things. I think it's going to be a nice looking development. They're going to comply with the ordinances for development. And in terms of the master plan, right now the master plan says what it says, but realistically, we're no longer going to be looking at 3-acre zoning. We're no longer going to be looking at 2-acre or 1 acre. It's just not feasible. No one's building that anymore. Everyone's building high density. Anywhere you go in New Jersey, around the country, it's just not something, people can't afford it. So this is sort of like one step toward where the master plan needs to go. And so for those reasons, I'm in favor of the project as well. And I think we're looking at the parameters by which we need to make this decision. I would approve the project.
Other board members, comments?
I'll just comment on a lot said about traffic. Now I'm going to draw a rough equivalence. And I don't have the long history, as lengthy a history as some do here, but I would compare the Springbrook to Mount Kimball to Punch Bowl, Madison Avenue. Fair?
Fair.
I live in a community with, I think, 170 or 180 units. We're not the driver of traffic. And I almost never have to wait to get in and out of my, there's no traffic jam from 180 units to get out of our private road entry. Lee, you drive it all the time.
Correct. I substantiate what you're saying in terms of.
And I'm just also comment on the safety issue. So I've been driving Punch Bowl Road for over 8 years now. I've seen a golf ball once in 8 years. I've never seen a golfer out to retrieve one either. So, and I'm a golfer, okay? And yeah, I have a slice. I have problems too. But it's just, I don't know about the safety issue there. I just don't. I just don't see it. And I drive by a fairway every day. For what that's worth. That's my observation. And Lee drives from the other direction, and I think he would agree with me on what I'm saying.
I do agree. I border a golf club in my residence. Some of the houses that are near the club at campus, an occasional ball. In terms of the fencing that we were talking about or the netting earlier, I think that can be determined at a later point. I do know the Morris County Golf Club has erected large netting and stuff, but I don't think that needs to be addressed at this point. It can be addressed later on,
but not on Long Punch Bowl Road.
Correct.
By some backyards.
Well, up at the main entrance to the club itself to protect,
yes.
The members, et cetera. But
I
I agree with what you're
make
saying
that clear.
in terms of the safety and the traffic.
Yeah.
We, Mr. Chair, we had an agreement or something was brought up about 55 and older.
Right.
What are the steps that need to be taken to ensure that it's 55 and older, or is it just a promise? Or
No, it would be the resolution.
but doesn't that have to go to the state? Doesn't it have to get approved by the state?
Well, they would have to file, it's been a while since I did it because people don't do so many anymore. But there is this procedure that they would file. It would also be in the master deed restriction in terms of the age requirements. The statute, if I recall properly, is that the one occupant has to be at least 55. The spouse, for example, could be younger. I do think there's a limitation that no one under the age of 18 can live there, but there's also an 80-20 rule with that 55 and older where like that only really applies to 80% of the units, 20% it doesn't have to apply to them. It kind of falls into the developer's hands a little bit. And the reason why there's that exception is because let's say you're 55, but your wife is 50 and you pass away and you own the house together. So now it goes to her, she's 50, they can't really force her out, right? So that's why there's that 20% kind of leeway. And it's really about the occupants, not the owners. Right?
Okay, so if it's not 55 and older, let's say it's not, they don't file or what have you, then would that be according to the owner's own testimony that he and his friends were going to live there?
Well, I
Would that
think
be a violation of any fair housing since we are changing the rules?
no, they would follow the Housing Act that creates 55 and older, right? What the testimony was from Mr. Tobia that even if it's not 55 and older, he thinks it would go that way anyway because of the cost of the house, the style of the home, the project itself. He foresaw that most of the people who would buy and own there would be 55 and older. Right.
But I guess my concern is that, let's say it's not 55 and older, and we're going to change the zoning law.
Well, it's not zoning, it's a restriction on this particular development.
We're going to change it though, right?
That it would be 55 and older. This development.
Okay, but what if he doesn't get it approved from the state? What if he?
It would.
happen?
Yeah, I don't have any doubt that if they took the proper steps to create it as a 55 and older, the permits wouldn't, the certificate of occupancy wouldn't even issue because they'll have to go down their compliance checklist before they can get COs. Right, and that would be one of the things they'd have to comply with.
Okay. And there are no restrictions on marketing because he did say that he and his friends, and 5 friends, would be there, right? And if we're opening this up to everyone, which would be fair, then how would we deal with that? Because I don't want to be part of something that's going to violate any fair housing laws.
And it wouldn't, it would be in compliance with the act creating the 55 and older development. Right. And that would be spelled out in their master deed. Anybody else?
Any other members of the board with any comments? I just want to echo what Mr. Benoit said as far as that the reason why this is OSGU is because it was owned by the golf course, and there wasn't any reason to consider it being anything but open space at that, or the last look at the master plan, and therefore it's something that's come before this without the master plan having addressed this specific unit, and therefore I think the goals of the master plan are being followed by granting this variance. These variances are approving this application.
That's as I see it.
Okay. Any other board members with any comments? So, are we ready for a vote? Our motion?
So there was another issue on the welcome sign.
Oh, well, unless I just misunderstood some of the things here, you guys are willing to put up a welcome to Springbrook sign. I'm not sure where that would go, but the condition would be that it would go to the TCC for location and maintenance would be done by the association.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
If the neighborhood doesn't want it.
Yeah, but it sounds like the neighbor doesn't want it.
I wouldn't include that as a condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If the neighbors don't want it, we won't do it.
Yeah, I think they were putting it in because they thought it was wanted, right? Okay, we'll omit that.
Okay. All right. With that omission and with the conditions as outlined by Mr. Oler, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Move to approve the application.
Motion to approve with the conditions listed by Mr. Rolla.
And for the reasons enumerated by the chairman.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago, roll call.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, I will have a resolution to you, Frank, for review sooner or later, but I need a transcript.
I got you. Thank you. Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You don't want to shake my hand? Okay. Good neighbor. Good luck to you.
Okay, is there any other matter? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man. You got it. You got
We're
it.
not done.
Okay, sure thing.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have, is there any other matters for the board to consider at this meeting? If not,
We're gonna swear you in at the next meeting. Okay.
Look at the
It'll only
rules,
take a couple of minutes, but we'll do it then.
the planning board and adjustment rules,
The what?
the rules,
The
the
bylaws will
behavior,
be later.
the rules of behavior or whatever.
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm rewriting your bylaws.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of bylaws.
Oh,
Okay.
What was you thinking?
Didn't we get something in the mail with the package on
Yeah.
the conduct of the
goes.
meetings?
I don't know.
It's a tough one.
nope.
any other matters for the board? If not, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Last week, you didn't get a. What's happening with the?
No, he was postponed.